Good day, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is Viper of Viperland, and I'm back. Part 2, Umineko. Load, yes, okay. That's where we left off. Still, pretty early. I don't know how long the chapters are. I know the game's long as hell, so I imagine the chapters aren't small. I imagine we'll know when we hit the end of a chapter. So, you know. Let me just hide the mouse cursor again. Also, hey, Sora, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. Four of us cousins were enjoying our stories, just shooting the breeze. Anyway, there were both girls and guys here. Plus, we had people over a wide spread of ages, adult, high school, and elementary school. Even if we just talked about our own lives, the other three kept listening attentively. I think I'm finally getting used to all this. Jessica and Maria have grown more than I could have imagined in the past 6 years. Look who's awake today? Yeah, well, to be fair, Saturday had nothing to do with that. Saturday was roommate birthday. So, Thursday, sure, yes. But Saturday, we didn't even start eating till 7, and we watched a movie, and we opened gifts, so like, by the time, like, yeah, Saturday, I kind of figured it was a wash, unless we somehow did birthday stuff really early, which did not end up happening, which was fine. Don't forget, I won't be here Tuesday either, because I'm going into the city. So, Tuesday's my excuse to go buy Witch Hat Atelier, the like volume 1 to 3 grimoire, and just eat city food, have a city day. Thursday, yeah, you know, I got nothing for Thursday. I took a nap, but I think the nap took me. Like, yeah, you're not wrong. To be honest, I was feeling a bit uncomfortable, but talking like this, I guess that on the inside, nothing's really changed since back then. I agree. You haven't changed a bit, even after 6 years. Fancier suit, maybe? Even though your body's gotten gigantic, you're still a kid inside. Ooh. Almost forgot about ooh. I'm a kid too. Yes, that is accurate. I'm a kid too. Again, accurate. Well, you aren't going to be a kid forever, are you, Maria? I mean, you're going to transform from a kid into a cute young lady, aren't you? And when that happens, that flat as a board chest will reach Jessica's level. When that happens, you gotta let me touch him, okay? It's a promise? Okay, Battler. Ooh. Let you touch him. Promise. Ooh. No, Maria-chan. You can't make that kind of promise. That's bad, bad, bad. Ooh. I promise, so I'll let him touch him. I keep my promises. Always keep them. Ooh. Maria, you really are an earnest good girl. Also, Eric, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. Congrats on 4 months of, you know, jail time. The warden is away currently, yes. Which is why tomorrow's probably just going to be Monster Hunter Stories, because Ramen's moving. So, yeah, I think tomorrow we're just going to say Stories 3. It'll make up for the Thursday stream anyway. Potts and I both don't want to start Neo 3 while in the middle of another game. And I should probably save the money for the city trip instead of spending it on Neo 3, whereas I get paid on Friday, so I'll have it for next week if we finish, so it's fine. So, yeah, I think Stories 3 tomorrow is the plan. I'll post on the Discord just to make sure people know, but I'll post that anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm excited to go into the city, but I forgot it's a weekday, so I either need to get out of there quickly, or I need to stay late, because peak trains on the way back, which are stupid pricey, and it means nobody's, like, you're not going to get a place to stay. It doesn't matter. So, a double whammy of, I don't want that. I don't want to pay extra to come home. So I need to, because I'm going after work anyway. I'm not taking the day off. But, considering the trip there and back, even if I do off-peak, is like 25, 26 bucks. The book's going to be 50. I plan on having lunch and dinner there if I'm spending time. I heard about a good ramen place from somebody at the card store, so I'm going to try that place out too. And I think, I don't want to get my hopes too high, but judging by what their website says, I think the Coco Curry location that Coco and Pecco and I used to visit all the time is open again. So I'm going to check. We're going to see tomorrow. That would be dope. If not, there's infinite other good food places in the city, but that's like a tradition. I'd like that be back. So we'll see. So like, I already know I'm going to spend some money, and if I find a dope figure at Book Off, I'm going to buy it, depending on the price. Book Off is great. It's just used figures and video games and books, but sometimes, you know, even used, a figure ain't cheap. Ooh, that sucks. Hopefully quick and easy and not expensive at the least. So, you know. And I gotta grab Pragmata at some point. At this rate, I'm probably not gonna stream it. I'm probably just gonna play it for me. But I've heard really good things, and I already wanted to play it. So, like, probably when I finish Witch in the Witch in the Holy Night. I always want to say Witch in the 100 Night, but that's another thing. It's a different thing. So, but when I finish Witch on the Holy Night, I'll probably nab Pragmata for free time stuff. So I have also been playing more 14. I have caught now 3 of the new pets, the whale shark minions. So I gave 1 to Potts. I've got 1 for one of my card friends. So we'll see. Yeah. The guy you marry is going to be really lucky. Hey, stop trying to change the subject, making it sound pretty. Maria, that promise never happened. Never. Ooh. Yeah, so I've been hitting the fishing boat when I can, trying to just do my daily, not roulettes, I should be doing daily roulettes, my daily allied tribes, because I know Bloodsworn is coming, and I have only 1 of the 3 at Sworn, so, or allied, so I only have 1 of the 3 at Bloodsworn. I need the other 2, so I need to do that. And then I've honestly just been bouncing between either seeing what big fish are up in the areas I'm looking for. I did go back to the not the moon per se, but the planetary stuff. Got my fishing rod up to like 1.2 or whatever. It's like 730 eye level, which is okay. It's better than any other fishing rod I got, so why not? For, you know, free. Haven't won anything else good from it, but I'm close to getting a mount, and if I decide not to get the mount, I can get all the other dyes that I like, so we'll see. Ooh, the promise is cancelled. Ooh. As I thought, without Battle-Kun and our little quartet, this group of cousins just didn't feel complete. He had a certain je ne sais quoi, a certain let me touch your boobs when you're older, that, you know, just nobody else really brought to the equation. These 6 years have been kind of lonely. That's true. We didn't really goof off like this. Still, we did have some pretty constructive conversations, right? Yeah, those are going to be over now. Stuff about preparing for a future, exam taking, finding jobs. Oh, I'm so sorry. I had a rare moment of me recognizing a Japanese voice actor. Usually I'm only really good at some of the English ones, and even then not many. Unless it's literally, you know, Soul Bad Guy or Kiryu. That's about the only 2. But I'm playing through Witch and the Holy Night, and there was a kind of side character who definitely is recurring, but like would not call them a main part of the cast right now. As soon as they spoke, I was like, I know that. They played the protagonist in the Nocia anime, who wasn't technically in the game because it's the player insert character. But yeah, I was immediately like, no, I know it. I had thought it was someone slightly different, but still close. So, you know. No, I'm so sorry. Now that I'm here, we just talk about stupid stuff and mess around. But I'm having more fun this year. Ooh. Usually Ramen's the ear for the Japanese VAs. That's true. I agree. It definitely helps that Ramen can tie all of them back to an Atelier game somewhere along the line. I agree, this year is the most fun yet. Maria's sincere words probably spoke for everyone present. George Aniki stroked Maria's head, and she giggled like a happy kitten. Never known a kitten to giggle. Purr, maybe. Pardon me, your meal is ready. A timid knocking sound and the equally timid voice of a young woman came up through the door. Jessica answered brightly. Shannon, come in. Just added 3 Atelier games. Yeah, no, that's a good deal. My backlog's already... By the time I got to another Atelier game, it would probably be cheaper. But yeah, no, it's still... Like, yeah. Considering how much those normally are, too. Like, they do go on sale often enough, but when they're not on sale, they're still full price. So, like, yeah. Why the hell not? And good options. I've only played one of those 3, but I really like that one. It was the final of the 3, but still. You remember Battler, right? Jessica stood up from the bed and opened the door. There stood a servant girl who must have been about our age. It's been quite some time since we last met, Battler-sama. It's nice to see you after 6 years. It's me, Shannon. Trembling a little as she noticed me, she bowed deeply. Jessica had me surprised, but look at you, Shannon-chan. You've turned into a total beauty too, haven't you? You're too kind. So, the food on this island must be really nutritional, huh? What are you eating and how are you training to get boobs that big? Guess I'll have to feel them a bit and see whether yours or Jessica's are bigger, okay? With both hands poised and saliva dribbling from my mouth, I closed it. Ooh. For the sake of justice and my personal honor, I'd like to point out that I don't suffer from some strange disease that makes my lymph nodes itch until I scratch my neck open, and which can only be prevented by fondling breast. No. You're just rich. So you have no consequences for your actions. We understand. We get it. It's not some weird disease. You're just rich. So there's no consequences. What's the worst that would happen? You get slapped? That's it. It's a throwback. I assume that must be a reference to something, but I'm not sure to what. I assume, like, that's too specific to not be a reference. I just don't know what it's a reference to. This is just a battler-style method of communication. If I slowly close in on her like this, odds are 8 or 9 out of 10 that I get slapped or clobbered, right? So I can use this Battler-sama original technique to spark a gag like that and break the ice. Ah, if she hits you, funny. People laugh. If she doesn't, boobs. It's a win all around. Well, it also means I really do get to touch them on that 1 in 10 chance though, right? Like that'd ever happen. At that point, my hands were less than a centimeter away from Shannon-chan's boobs, but the counterstrike had yet to come. She blushed and lowered her head in embarrassment when she realized what was going on. She didn't realize from second one. But she just stood there with both hands politely joined in front of her, not even trying to resist or cover her breast. Hey, I wasn't planning on this. Please, hit me right now, or I'm seriously gonna... Which is why I was glad that Jessica chose that time to drive her elbow into the back of my head. Oh, thank you so much, Jessica. Why the hell are you thanking me? Seriously, my bad, Shannon. I almost got overwhelmed by your hypnotic chest. More importantly, anyone who gets that close has got to be a molester. You gotta fight back when people do that. But you are an important guest, Battler-sama. Yeah, almost like there's a giant power imbalance here or something, but, you know, he wouldn't think of that. Now look here, a pervert's a pervert, whether he's a guest or not. The girl's chest has got an air defense identification range of about 10 centimeters or so. Oh, what? Once someone trespasses within 2 centimeters, that's already an invasion of airspace. So you better scramble the jets immediately and give him an instant slap. Zor, did he stutter? Did he stutter? No, I did. He didn't. I couldn't do such a thing. Because we are, furniture. Of course, she didn't want her breast touched, but if a guest so desired, she was prepared to sacrifice herself to suit their wants. A girl like this needs some urgent protection. To think such devoted girls still existed in this era. I don't know if it's devotion as much as I don't even know. Enough to make a man dizzy. No! No! Let me hit you with a perverted face again. Knock me down. Look out, pervert on the loose. This gag can't end to deliver the punchline, so slut, you already got elbowed. Please, hit me. I cannot fulfill your request because I'm furniture. But if it were an order, I'd obey you, because that is my duty. No, then I'll make it in an order. The next time Battler-kun tries to touch your breast, counterattack with a slap. Got it? Yes. As you wish. From now on, that's what I'll do. Please understand, Battler-sama. Kanan-chan announced this while bowing elegantly to me. Her expression was radiant. I gave her a thumbs up to show her I was fine with that. 6 years ago, you might have been mistaken for a servant's daughter who led a hand at your parents' work. But now you're a full-fledged adult servant. How long have you been working here? Well, I had the pleasure of serving this household for about 10 years. She's... The kanji for her name are read as Shannon. Now here's another name that's far from typical for a Japanese person. Back in the day, I was a kid myself, so I accepted her name without paying it much attention. Thinking about it now, though, her name's pretty unusual, even though she's not a member of the Ushiromiya family. Maybe it's like a servant's professional name or something. If so, that might explain why her name's so similar to Kanan-kun, the kid I met earlier in the Rose Garden. She's a long-term servant who served here since she was 6 years old. Her appearance had changed so much that I couldn't match her to the person of my memories, but we both knew each other 6 years ago. That shy part of her had always been there, but she did seem to have developed the allure you'd expect of a girl her age, especially in her breasts, yes. The kid we met earlier, Kanan, is her little brother. He's not exactly my little brother. Still, he loves me like a big sister. He didn't cause you any trouble, did he? He's the same as always. If only he was just a bit more sociable. I'd apologize if he's caused you any trouble. He didn't cause any trouble at all. As a fellow man, I understand how moody you can get at that age. It's no surprise he's unsociable. Ooh. I get called that all the time too. I get called unsociable. Just like Kanan. Ooh. You aren't unsociable at all, Maria-sama. Ooh. Wanted to be like him. Ooh. You said the meal was ready, right? Ah, yes. I'm sorry. Your meal has been fully prepared, so please allow me to guide you all to the mansion. Shannon bowed again formally and returned to her duty mode. We realized that if we made her stick around for any more light conversation, it would actually make it harder for her to do her job. We got up off our butts to avoid interfering with her work any further. So, shall we go to the mansion? Everyone's probably hungry, right? Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Goda-san's food. That guy was apparently a chef at this famous hotel, so he's super good at cooking. Oh, can't wait. Let's go, Maya. We're gonna stuff ourselves like pigs. Ooh. Stuff ourselves like pigs. No, no. You can't take everything Battler-kun says seriously, okay? Because he's always just joking around. Okay, let's go. Under Shannon-chan's guidance, we headed towards the mansion. Oh hey, it's the title screen. Met once again by the magnificent Rose Garden, we continued onward, as the intimidating mansion of the Ushiromiya head family came into view. It had apparently been built shortly after the war, so you could feel the dignity of almost half a century hanging about it. The building was gorgeous on the surface, but old as it was, equipment such as its AC and heating were apparently quite frail. According to Jessica, midwinter was especially tough, what with all the drafts. Haven't these people ever heard of a kotatsu? Apparently not. As we entered the entrance hall, an aged servant greeted us. Now him I remembered. Genji-san, who had been working here longer than anyone, filled the role of head servant.
Butler-sama.
It's been quite some time since last we met. As our eyes met, he greeted me with a calm, composed voice. His bow wasn't as graceful or refined as Gota's, but despite its simplicity, it communicated his feelings very well. Genji-san, it really has been a while. You look well. Thank you. I've been quite well. And Butler-sama, you have become a splendid young man. You are beginning to resemble the master in his youth. Look like grandfather? Guess that means grandfather was pretty popular with the ladies when he was young. From here on, I shall take Shannon's place and accompany you. Please come this way. Shannon-chan bowed deeply and watched us leave. After that, we headed towards the dining room under Genji-san's guidance. Genji-san, just like Kumasawa-san, stood in stark contrast to us young people, who had grown beyond recognition over the last 6 years. His appearance was exactly the same as in my memories from 6 years ago. It was as though time had stopped since the last time we met. Genji-san was an extremely quiet and diligent person. He was basically grandfather's close aide or caregiver, and you might even call him grandfather's companion of many years. In fact, it seems he was by grandfather's side even more often than my late grandmother was. According to Jessica, grandfather trusted him more than any of his blood relatives. But I wonder how long he's served. I never got the details, but I heard something about him being here since the very beginning, when the mansion was first constructed, which would mean that he's dedicated half of his life to serving here. It's easy to see why he's so trusted. Yeah, it's a little everywhere. As we pass through a massive... I mean, if you're rich, why not? Why not have the family crest that signifies your wealth on everything? As we passed through a massive hall that extended up into the second story of the mansion with no separating floor, I spotted something that hadn't existed in my memory 6 years ago. Oh yes, a painting I've never seen before. Ever. Definitely never. I feel like before this game, this is the sole thing you see of this game, is that painting. There's an awfully big portrait hanging right in front of the stairs that rose to the second floor. Without thinking, I stopped walking, captivated by it. Since I'd stopped so fast, Maria, who was following behind me, ran into my back. Ooh. Sorry. Hey, Jessica. Has that picture always been there? I pointed at the big, prominently displayed portrait in the hall. Everyone else stopped too. Oh, right. When you last came here, that hadn't been hung yet, had it? When was it again? Well, my memory doesn't fail me. It was put on display sometime around the year before last. You are correct, sir. In April of the year before last, the master put it on display there, having previously ordered a painter to create it. Grandfather did that? So he paid to have it painted just for him, huh? The portrait suited the Western mansion, and that woman in the elegant dress gave off a sense of refinement. I couldn't have guessed her age, but her sharp eyes and the strong will she seemed to possess made her look youthful. She seemed somehow different from the composed middle-aged woman you often see in famous pictures. If she'd had normal black hair, I might have assumed it was a portrait of my long-deceased grandmother in her prime. However, she had beautiful blonde hair and didn't look Japanese at all. So, just who is this lady? Maria answers that simple question enthusiastically, as though proud she knew the answer. Hey, how's it going? Kendra in the bathroom? Thank you so much for the follow. Much appreciated. I'm having a good time. I'm definitely stewing in the, slow start, but enjoying it. Characters are interesting and varied and loud, mostly. Not all, mostly loud. But you know, yeah, having a good time. How about yourself? Hope your weekend's going well, even though it's almost over, you know. Ooh. I know. She's Beatrice. Okay, yep, she knows. What? Bayonetta, obviously. Beatrice. Episode 1? Cool. Yeah, this is the second stream. So we did one last week, and now we're back here. This is going to be our Sunday stream for the foreseeable future till we finish it. So we're in for a ride. Basically, all I know about the game, I've heard some of the music because Ramen Song requested it. I know that painting, and I know it's long as hell and good as hell. That's the extent of my knowledge. So Ramen's been saving up tickets to get me to play it for a while now, and it's finally Spirit Bomb cashed them all in. So, Beatrice, she's a witch. Didn't you ever hear stories about her long ago? A witch? You mean, Sundays usually are dedicated like a visual novel game, and this will be the one we're playing for a bit now. You mean, the witch of this island? I think I already said this, but Rokinjima is a small island, only 10 kilometers in circumference. However, that's actually pretty massive, considering that the only Ushiromiya family lives here. So only the harbor and the area around the mansion were set up to be lived in. Beyond that, the island remained as untouched as when it was inhabited. Yeah, like, mostly all I, like, again, other than the painting and having heard some music, all I really know is it's long and it's very good. I've only played one other game by the writer, and it was Silent Hill F recently, which I really liked. I was surprised to like a modern Silent Hill game. I think the writing and the characterization was fantastic, so, you know. I always knew I'd like this game, I just didn't want to commit to it. It's like it's the visual novel equivalent of starting One Piece. It's like, but it's so long. Even if it's good the whole way, it's so long. The vast and empty forest had absolutely no lights, phones, or people passing through. Oh yeah, because at this rate, they wouldn't have, like, cell phones. They'd be using, like, pay phones. And if there's none set up, you're out of luck. To understand how dangerous that is, you need to forget your common sense as a city dweller. Done. After all, if you happen to fall down a hole in the depths of the forest and sprain your ankle, no one would come save you, no matter how much you cried or screamed. One Piece and Umineko right now? Oh man, just commit your gaming and anime watching time for the foreseeable future. I mean, hey, why not? I've only heard good about One Piece too, I just haven't sat down and committed to that yet. I also just don't watch as much anime, so I don't know if that one will ever happen. This was inevitable, especially with Ramen in the chat. This was inevitable, but you know. Then, once the sun went down, the forest would be wrapped in complete darkness, since there was no streetlights. And since there were no signs, it'd be easy to get lost and confused, losing your sense of direction inside that dark forest. Nowadays, most people see a forest as a peaceful place, but to the people of bygone eras, before the light of civilization drove out the night, forests were as geographically separated from civilization as the sea. They were oceans above the ground. Fishermen who go out into the ocean are putting their lives at risk, despite their technical knowledge. In the same way, hunters who go into the forest are in danger, despite having specialized knowledge of their own. If children were to go play in such a dangerous forest, something terrible might happen. Yes, those who go into the woods emerge changed or not at all. Someone's parents must have thought so. Midpoint of both. Oh, okay. Nifty. Once you get that ball rolling, it's not difficult to keep it going, I imagine, but it's the starting point. You need that initial push. Or I do, at least. Someone's parents must have thought so. Maybe grandmother first said it, or maybe it was grandfather himself. Or perhaps the story has been passed down on this island since ancient times. There's a terrible witch in the forest, so you must not go in. Her name is Fata Morgana. At some point, this ghost story of Rokinjima was born. This is the legend of Rokinjima's witch. That is why, when we talk about a witch on this island, we're referring to the master of that vast and savage forest. Come to think of it, when I stayed at this mansion as a little kid, during those eerie nights when the wind and rain poured on the windows, I remember being terrified by a story of the forest witch, who roamed around searching for human sacrifices. So, Beatrice, huh? When Aniki mentioned it, I searched my memory and was sure I recalled hearing a name like that when I was little. I see. Still, I totally forgot that the witch in that legend had an elegant name like Beatrice. So, did grandfather go out of his way to have a portrait made just because we grandchildren didn't believe the story? She's the witch from grandfather's delusions. Ever since he had this picture hanged, he's been having a harder and harder time telling the difference between truth and fantasy. To us, she's just a witch that existed in grandfather's mind, but to him, she's a being that exists on this island. Exists. He says he had that painting made because the rest of us would be incapable of understanding otherwise. The whole thing's creepy as hell. Lady, this portrait is precious to the master. I beg of you, do not say such things in front of him. I know. Even if you didn't tell me, I'd never do something like that. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Bump. There we go. Yeah. I'm trying not to tab out or anything, but we gotta get the bots out, you know. Jessica glanced at the portrait with an irritated gaze before turning away. Steam version. I am playing the Steam version with the mod applied. Ramen is our resident visual novel expert and was like, Piper, you have to install this mod before you play the game. So I am running the Steam version with the mod. I don't remember the name of the mod, but it's the one. That one, you know, the one. Probably Umineko project. So maybe it's not an Umineko project. The 07th mod, yeah, okay. So I'm running that. The only thing I changed in the installation was I had it change they were like, some of the chapter introduction videos might contain spoilers. We made ones that don't, and I was like, yeah, do that. Otherwise, it's default installation of the 7th mod. That's what I'm running. When Ramen's like, hey, you gotta play it this way, I trust Ramen. So, yeah. So that's what we're doing. It is the Steam version, but it's the modded Steam version. Let's go. We're making everyone wait in the dining room. Speakers' names. See, that's the thing. I kind of like that too, but considering I just finished in my free time Fate Stay Night, and I'm currently in the middle of Witch on the Holy Night, I'm kind of getting used to this style. And, you know, while it doesn't have the speaker's name, I was kind of okay with leaving it as the way it was. So, you know, it's okay. There's pros and cons to both. It does block some of the screen, but it does show the name. Pros and cons, I went with this because it's what I've been reading games as lately anyway, so. Ooh. I'm hungry. But it's cool that you get the option. Only a small portion of this island was controlled by the Ushiromiya family. All of the lawless remainder was the domain of the witch Beatrice. You might even call her the true ruler of Rokenjima. I felt a faint revival of that unsettling sense of misfortune, which I'd felt when I learned of the tutelary god's shrine being struck by lightning. And I remembered that Kumasawa-san tried to tell an ominous story about Rokenjima before Jessica stopped her. I don't know what she's planning to tell us about this island, but I do know one thing. It isn't the Ushiromiya family that rules Rokenjima. It's the witch, Beatrice. That's right. After all, this is the witch's island. Battler! Ooh, you're slow! When I looked around, everyone was already heading towards the dining room. I hurriedly chased after them. We walked up to the huge double doors that led to the dining room. Genji-san knocked. I have brought the children. Please pardon the intrusion. The doors were opened and we were invited inside. The dining room, which looked exactly like you'd imagine a rich person's dining room to be, had a super long table that was obviously positioned with no purpose other than to make the guests conscious of their rank. Yeah, it's very important you know where you sit at the table. Our parents were already sitting in accordance with that ordering. You're late, brats. Hurry up and take a seat. The old bastard pressed us to sit. The only gaps in that group of people were the spots we were supposed to sit, which only made us feel our tardiness all the more. The seat at the head of the table, called the incipient's chair was for the most highly ranked, reserved for grandfather. Excuse me. It was still empty. He probably wanted to show up last for dramatic effect. From the perspective of someone facing the incipient's chair, head-on, the seating order went from left to right, with the lower-ranking seats progressing in rows of 2 further away from it. So the left-hand side of the first row closest to the incipient's chair was where Uncle Kraus should have sat, since he was the second highest in rank. It looked like he hadn't arrived yet, so that seat was empty. Across from his chair on the right side of the first row sat the eldest daughter of the family, Aunt Eva, who was the third highest in rank. The left-hand side of the second row was for the fourth highest in rank. There sat my damned dad, Rudolph, the third of the siblings. Across from him, on the right side of the second row, sat Aunt Rosa, the youngest sibling. At this point, you might expect their husbands and wives to come next. But nope, the left-hand seat in the third row, rank number 6, belonged to Jessica. Opposite her was George Aniki. I sat next to Jessica, and Maria sat across from me. Then finally, next to me on the left-hand side of the fifth row, sat Aunt Natsuhi, the 10th highest in rank. Opposite her was Uncle Hideyoshi. Next to Aunt Natsuhi in the 6th row and the final seat on the left-hand side sat Kirie-san. The seat opposite to Kirie-san was empty, even though silverware had been set there and everything. According to this ranking system, that spot was where Aunt Rosa's husband should be sitting. Even though he wasn't supposed to be coming, his place was made up. Normally, ranking systems of this sort gave spouses equal positions as their parents, but the Ushiramiya family system was unique. Maybe it's a remnant of male chauvinism. If you start with the assumption that a woman's womb is just something to be borrowed, then the children of direct descent would come first, directly followed by the grandchildren. In other words, spouses have no blood ties and are therefore placed at the end of the line. Damn. It's terrible, but by this system, my grandmother would be ranked even lower than me if she were still alive. Damn. In their youth, they obeyed their father. After they get married, their husband. After aging, their children. There's the old saying, women have no home in any realm. Damn. Wow. Also, just the need to rank everyone so everyone knows their place. Like, that's a old bloodline, old money type deal. Long ago, when I was still incapable of figuring all this out, I thought it was so great that we could all chat in our little groups, adult siblings with adult siblings and cousins with cousins. However, now that I can re-examine the seating order after growing up a bit, it stirs up some very complicated feelings in me. Aunt Natsuhi, who was married to the eldest son and was the de facto number 2 in managing this family, sat to my right, which meant that she was 2 steps lower than me on the rankings order. It was hard to imagine what might be going on inside her heart. That's why I made a small apologetic gesture towards her before sitting down. Nice to see you, Bat-Raccoon. You've grown quite tall, haven't you? I like how one of the first things that happens in this game is he's like, every single person is going to be like, wow, you got so tall. And then like, yeah, it's been 6 years, of course. Every single person is opened with that. Yup. 6 long years of eating well, sampling various cuisines, and deriving sustenance from Mother Earth's bountiful gifts. Hard work, but I pulled through. Growing just like a boy, I see. How tall are you now? Guess about 180 centimeters? But, Aunt Natsui, that's where you're supposed to say, heck, sounds like all you did was eat. Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. After a short pause, she did laugh with me, but it seemed she couldn't quite figure out what she was supposed to be laughing at. This woman is Aunt Natsuhi. She's the wife of the eldest son of the family, meaning she's my father's older brother's wife. It is simpler if I just call her Jessica's mother. Yeah. Feels bad to say it like this, but while I didn't exactly dislike her, I didn't particularly like her either. She hardly ever spoke with us kids, and all my memories of her involved her talking to the adults about complicated things with a scary look on her face. In fact, since we hardly ever exchanged words, I spent a long time trying to figure out how I should approach her, though my efforts seemed to have ended in failure. The silverware sat neatly on the table, but the meal itself hadn't been brought in yet. As a general rule, you couldn't start a meal until the person sitting at the head of the table arrived. Yeah, if they're going to be in the seat of, like, most respect, it'd be kind of disrespectful to start without them. So as long as grandfather didn't come, lunch would be put on hold indefinitely. Not even the appetizers would arrive. Simply put, the silence in this room was caused by our parents enduring their hunger while they waited for grandfather to arrive. However, the grandfather from my memories would always show up on time to meals like this. He was the kind of person who would never be so late that it kept everyone waiting, especially after the entire group had arrived. -1. Grandfather's pretty late. As far as I can remember, he was always strict about time. Well, that might have been true 6 years ago, but it hasn't been that way lately. In fact, he's off in his own little world so often that he doesn't even show up at family meals. Still, I figured he'd at least come down today. Then again, I feel a lot more relaxed and happy without him. Jessica. When her mother scolded her, Jessica stuck her tongue out and looked away. No way around it. Might as well wait until our host arrives. When I glanced at the clock, I saw that it was almost 12:20. Yet really most of what we know about Jessica's parents right now are from Jessica, and she does not speak highly of them. It could just mean that they don't treat her great, but you know. Ushiromiya Kinzo, the aged family head of the Ushiromiya head family. This man could be seen in his study. The clock had already passed noon, but he didn't even attempt to rise from his seat. With his spectacles on, he built up a growing pile of books with elaborate bindings, which he then read intently. Excuse me. You couldn't really say that he was having too much fun to stop. Rather, he filled the room with a sense of impatience, or perhaps a sense of impending danger, as though every second wasted was a tragedy. In this sealed room, a dense dust danced through the air, which was thick with the stench of chemicals that exuded a mix of suspicious odors. Those odors were somehow sweet and heavy. If anyone with a normal nose came in here, the first thing they'd do would be to open a window and ventilate this room. The knocking against the study door had been going on for a while. A voice calling, "Father," sometimes mingled in with the knocks. As Kinzo heaved a deep sigh, he snapped shut the old book in his hands and slammed it on the table. Then he yelled at Kraus, who was still knocking on the door. Silence! Alright, 1 second, gotta blow my nose. There we go. Enough with that racket, you fool! Who told you the door would be opened if you but knocked? Now crucify the imbecile. Damn. Do you wish to suffer the same fate? Father, this is the day of the family conference, which happens only once a year, is it not? Everyone's gathered down below. Please come out. Kraus called out to his father through the door. Kinzo always shut himself up in the study, hating it when nearly anyone, even his family, entered the room. For that reason, Kraus had no choice but to call to him from the corridor like this. Molest me not. I get what he's trying to say, but it's just the phrasing. Just who is this everyone of who you speak? Do you mean the fools trying to drag me out of here? Then kill them all. Tear them apart, use their bodies for firewood, and feed them into the witch's heart. Put a pot in that hearth to boil the wormwood. Force the imbeciles who dare to lure me out of here to drink the broth of the apocalypse. Jeez, dude, they're just saying once a year they can't eat food without you. Maybe you should show. Little harsh. They'll soak their dregs in liquor. Where's Genji? Call for Genji. Have my demonic absinthe prepared. Who is absent? The whispering of the green fairy reaches me no longer. Where's Genji? Bring him here! It's a powerful wall of text. On the other side of the door, Kraus, Nanjo, and Genji kept waiting for the master of the house, who stubbornly refused to come out. Looks like he hates me to the core. My voice doesn't reach him anymore. Kraus shrugged as though saying, "It's no use," and smiled bitterly. From the beginning, he hadn't really expected his father to respond to his calls. However, since it was the duty of the eldest son, he had tried as a formality.
Kinzo-san,
Kinzo-san, your sons, daughters, and grandchildren have come to see you, have they not? Could you just let them see your face, if only for a short while? Shut up! Be silent! You dare to admonish me, Nanjo? I never told anyone to get you. I told them to get Genji. Now, call for him immediately. Damn. Time is short, and the apostles are already readying their trumpets, so why can't you foolish sheep understand? Kinzo slammed an old heavy book against the table over and over. That racket clearly expressed his great displeasure. Kinzo put his spectacles down and flew up from his chair. He spread his arms wide open as if to sing to a packed opera house, as if appealing to someone, and yelled, Why? Why is there always something in my way? I would throw it all away. I would offer up everything. There's only one thing I ask in repayment. Oh, Beatrice. If I could see her smile but one more time, I'd plunder the smiles of the earth and offer them all up to you. Guy is lost in the sauce and simping hard. Oh, commanders of the legion of locusts, reap the smiles of the earth. Lost in the sauce, big simping, and not feeling good. This is how simping was created. He's not a simp, he's the simp. Oh, also, hey, Ramen. I did not expect to see you here tonight. How's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. Yes, we've encountered more, He's a healthy, well-adjusted person, you know? I imagine moving sucks. Being in a new place can be great. Leaving an old place can be great. The act of moving sucks. And I've done it I've done it once for real, but like, if you count college, I've done it a few times. Oh, jeez, yeah. But you're at your new place, like, hot damn. I feel like that was not a long amount of time between I'm gonna have to move for my job to I'm here, but also awesome? Yeah, apparently there was a line that was a reference to Higurashi, which I definitely realized must have been a reference because of its specificity, but not to what. Oh, duh, okay. Hotel now, temp apartment tomorrow, okay. I mean, hotels are always cushy. I loves me a con hotel. Not that that's every hotel, but I loves me a con hotel regardless. Everything is filthy, everything is irksome. Why must I suffer this impediment on this most precious of days? That is a cough of all time. I feel like that's how you cough when you don't actually want to strain your throat or your vocal cords. Which, smart. If your profession is a voice actor, you should try to not strain your voice or your vocal cords. Like, yeah. Call for Genji! Or maybe he's actually just dying. I don't know. I have no idea what he's yelling about. He's probably lost his mind by now. Kraus-san? Isn't it a bit harsh to say such a thing of your own father? My father is already dead. There's nothing here but a phantom what father once was. At any rate, as long as he has no intention of coming out, there's nothing we can do. Kinzo-san. Choking coughs continue to pour from the study. He is definitely the single most melodramatic individual in this game so far. Cause hot damn, they're like, hey, can you come out? And he gives a whole like Shakespearean soliloquy as to why no. No, I won't. Going back downstairs, it would be a waste to let the fruits of Gota's prized cooking talent get any colder. It's one of the few things our relatives can look forward to when they come to this house. Kraus spun around. He looked at his watch, mumbling and acting as though he had wasted time doing something he knew would be in vain. Genji-san,
親父殿がお呼び
father
だ
is calling for you.
相手を頼
Keep
む
him company.
かしこまりました
Family reunion. Oh, going so great. Nothing quite like making your... How old is she? 8? 8-year-old niece promise to let you feel her boobs when they get bigger. You know. Nothing quite like... I do admire that, like, he really does seem to do it to try to break the ice. Nothing quite like him just about to grab Shannon's boobs before he's like, why didn't you hit me? 9. Okay, it was 8 or 9. It was, you know. Yeah, like... I appreciate that, like, he's doing it so that they slap him, so that they will get a laugh and break the ice. But faced with somebody who wasn't going to slap him, he's like, no, I've made a mistake. No. Which is pretty good, yeah, you know. He sure has a way, and that way is boobs. Certainly. Dr. Nanjo, let's go eat. If we stay here any longer, this sweet stench will ruin our sense of taste. Without waiting for Nanjo, Kraus went downstairs. Genji urged Nanjo to go and eat. Nanjo glanced between the study door and Kraus's back as the latter disappeared down the stairs, then let out a deep sigh. Sorry, Genji-san, but please allow me to leave this in your hands. Yes, please leave it to me. Do what you can to avoid giving him alcohol. Good luck. It's a habit that's far too difficult to break. It's Genji not here yet? Who dares keep Genji from coming? Phrasing. Oh, where's Genji? Call for Genji! He needs the green fairy, yeah, huh? Please. Allow me to handle the situation here. Very well. Forgive me. You also know that this is a stupid wealthy family in Giant Mansion because he is throwing a super loud temper tantrum up here, and the dining room has no idea. In any normal house, if somebody's slamming stuff around and throwing a temper tantrum, you'd hear that everywhere. They got no idea at all. Nanjo bowed slightly and descended the stairs. Genji watched him leave, then knocked on the study door. Master, it is Genji. Genji! He's literally so lost in the sauce that he's crying because they tried to get him to go to his meal. Why have you kept me waiting so long? You're alone, I trust? Correct. It's crazy that he's actually a double simp. He simps for Beatrice and the bottle. Correct, I am alone. Kinzo returned to his seat in the study and pressed the old-fashioned switch on the table. After a small delay, the heavy sound of the door unlocking could be heard. Kinzo was convinced that his family wanted to make a mess of his study. Or perhaps someone had once opened the window for some air and ended up scattering things that to him were important research materials. Leaving him in a terrible mood. Kinzo had outfitted his room with a formidable lock, preventing anyone from entering without his permission and thereby stealing himself in a jail of his own making. Genji, whom he trusted the most, was relatively free to enter the room, but even that didn't always hold. If Kinzo was in a bad mood, even Genji wouldn't be able to enter. Anyone else would be limited to holding a conversation through the door, unable even to see Kinzo's face. And most of the time, what they got could hardly be called a conversation. However, this didn't trouble the rest of the family much. After all, it just wasn't worth the effort to disturb this aging family head, who was impossible to please and always stayed shut away, immersed in his research. Taking advantage of his refusal to leave his room, they supported his isolation, putting his care entirely into the hands of the servants. Genji, my usual. I'm busy. If it was only, yes, it's go away your disgrace, but it's go away your disgrace stretched out among 6 paragraphs. Yes, sir. Genji headed to a corner of the study. There, suspicious-looking bottles boasted venomous colors were on display. They were actually liquor, but considering the shady atmosphere of this room, one might easily suspect them of being some ghastly poison. Inside the study, the mysterious collection of books gathered by Kinzo had grown into a mountain. I like the concept that he can't pour his own drink. That's how you, literally too deep in the bottle to care about anything else. but too rich to pour his own drink. Genji's got to pour the drink. He can't pour that drink himself. He's rich. They were bizarre, ancient, or banned books, all of them either forbidden, cursed, or sealed. Gotta have standards, yeah. Oh, Ramen, we ended up watching more Witch Hat Atelier today, so we've seen 3 episodes. I think there's 4 out, but we've seen 3. I'm excited to get the physical book, so that'll be nifty. But if you tried to call them old books, Kinzo would fly into a rage and say, "Call them grimoires." Oh, that's what it's called. It's the grimoire edition of that I'm getting on Tuesday. It's 5 actually. Okay, got you. Sold card, nifty. There were also many mysterious objects that presumably held some meaning with regard to black magic, like candles suspiciously melted and molded into strange shapes. The constellations drawn on a celestial globe contained quite a few shapes that would draw puzzled looks from anyone familiar with today's night sky. The carelessly strewn about books contained many illustrations, all of them of a religious or mysterious nature, including some depicting demonically grotesque subjects, or bizarre diagrams of various magical circles. And above all, a sweet, poisonous smell filled the room, profoundly assaulting the eyes and noses of those who entered for the first time. Eventually, it must surely make a person go numb and lose their grip on reality. Inside that study, Genji prepared Kinzo's usual drink with a well-trained hand. No one would even think of drinking such an ominous dark green liquid in that complex and ornate glass, unless someone first told them that it was alcohol. Pretty sure they could guess. He poured a little into the glass. Then he placed a cube of sugar in a strangely shaped spoon and poured water from a pitcher over it. Strangely, when the transparent water was poured, the dark green liquid turned a cloudy white. Yeah, that's one of those, like... I would definitely call it a slotted spoon, but it's definitely like a specific thing for like absinthe, right? Like it's a specific type. Where it sits over a glass and I guess you pour over that. I haven't drank it myself, but, you know. This is the 80s. Yep, absolutely. It was a strange optical illusion, as though the water had caused a chemical reaction and made the drink become even more unrecognizable as liquor. Then Genji added original flavors Kinzo loved, fine-tuning its taste. Oh, okay. There was no recipe. This I kind of get why he'd call Genji then. I thought he was just pouring out of a bottle. Don't get me wrong, he still seems too rich to pour his own drink, but this is slightly different. Its success was measured only by Kinzo's mood swings when he drank it, and it had taken Genji many decades to learn how to do it right. Man, guy's been pounding absinthe for decades. Genji placed the glass on a tray and walked over to Kinzo. By this time, Kinzo was gazing out the window. Here, master. Thank you. Kinzo had regained its composure and was now unrecognizable as the shouting, screaming, yelling man from a few moments ago. Looking at this man from behind as he tilted his glass and gazed down at the scenery beyond the window, he projected a sense of dignity and intelligence, as opposed to alcoholism and simpitude, which is what he normally... To allow Kinzo to set his glass down at any time, Genji motionlessly waited behind Kinzo and to his left, as though he were a living sideboard. Then, without averting his eyes from the window, Kinzo held out his glass. There was only a mouthful remaining. It was not a gesture intended to set it upon the tray, but a motion to hand the glass over to Genji. Drink, my friend. Your words are too kind for me. No need for ceremony between us. Drink, my friend. Thank you. Genji respectfully received the glass and inclined it a little to taste its contents. After that, he gulped it down. I attempted to imitate your concoction, but no matter how I try, I cannot replicate the taste. Yeah, there you go. The way you make it is pure relish. He's like, how did he know my secret ingredient was pure relish? Thank you very much. It's the fruit of your guidance, master. Too weak to make his own drink. Absolutely, yeah. He even tried. Yeah, look, you gotta be a committed house servant to put up with this stuff. I mean, at this rate, like, I'm sure he's known him most of his adult life, but damn. It's gotta help a little bit when you're the only person that they actually do trust. I imagine it would be a little harder if even he wasn't allowed in the room. Kinzo smiled at his loyal subject, who refused to put aside rank even when asked to. However, he was not making fun of him. His smile was relaxed, as though chuckling at a close friend's old unshakable habit. We have grown old together. I stopped counting the years long ago. Oh, I assume they're definitely well paid. It is entirely thanks... I mean, Shannon was about to let a stranger grope her because, you know, can't have her job go poorly. That's... I mean, Shannon might be an exception, but at the same time, like, they're definitely paid well. You know. Okay, from Wormwood. I feel like I knew that at some point. Oh, he probably does, yeah. And his own family doesn't know how to pour absinthe for him, so what are they useful for? It's entirely thanks to you, Master, that I've been able to live like this until today. Kinzo gave a faint smile, as if to say he didn't need any flattery. Until now, you have served me exceedingly well. Until now. Oh, that's why I talked about Wormwood. Okay. Can't make you drink for you. Yeah, definitely. My sons call me eccentric. You've locked yourself in your room with absinthe and screamed Beatrice at the top of your lungs all day. What would you call that? I feel like eccentric is, that's it. Yeah, I'd argue that's the nicer way to put it. Servants that were once many have all quit in fear of me. Only you serve me even now. Your words are more than I deserve. My life will not last much longer. My sons are vultures, lazily waiting for my inheritance to fall into their hands. Kraus is a fool who squanders money like water, who throws away 2 gold coins to obtain 1. Then he has the gall to claim that he's earned money. Ooh, if that ain't so many of the, like, I made a fortune on my own merits with only a small loan from my parents.
And I've become even more powerful.
Every time it comes up, it's better. One day I really do need to sit down and do some of the post-game of Disgaea 7. However, even if all we ever got of that game is that line, worth every penny. I still think that's the best of the modern Disgaea games by a good ways. And I don't hate the other modern Disgaea games. 7's just really good. Yeah, it would not be as good if we could pick the timing of it. The fact that it's random gives it power. Eva is a slave to money, who thinks of me as a mere chicken. When I die, she plans to use my bones to make a broth. That dunce with Rudolph just wants to fool around with women. Rosa bore the baby of a man who came from nowhere, and about whom we know nothing. Jessica is incompetent and uneducated. She's in school. How dare she not have graduated already? George has none of what it takes to be a man. Battler is a fool who threw away the honor of the Ushiromiya family. And Maria is obscene to the eyes. What? Obscene to the eyes? He really doesn't like kids, does he? Why is the Ushiromiya blood so incompetent? You gotta say, if you're looking for someone to blame, it clearly stems from you. I guess so. Is there no one worthy to inherit the glory I built? Of course, I know this is part of Beatrice's curse. I know it. You golden witch, are you trying to take revenge against me in this way? We know nothing of witches' curses around here. If you want to hate me, then do so. If you want to run away, then run. I won't let you go. I won't let you go. Won't let you go. Won't let you go. You belong to me. You must always be in my arms for all my life. You must stay in my birdcage for all eternity, whispering only to me. Yeah, never live in a cursed mansion. Yeah. Never curse a mansion and all who live in it, and all who lived in it, and, you know, people who wronged her, just generally. Yeah, you know. Beatrice, why won't you smile back at me? The simping is strong. After howling, Ginzo choked once again. Genji set the tray and glass down and rubbed his master's back. Genji's facial expression did not change. It was always like this. How was that sound? Thank you, my friend. When his seemingly deranged fit subsided, Ginzo regained his composure once again. It was like seeing two different people, a wild Ginzo and a composed Ginzo, living together inside one body. $1 billion super chat, yeah. And all his $1 billion super chats are, you'd look so much prettier if you smiled. And so, I have decided, to be fair, $1 billion would make me smile pretty hard, so cannot bear to spend my dimmed remaining years procrastinating like this. If I have one final coin to bet, then I choose to abandon it to the whims of the demon's roulette. The power of magic is always determined by the risk of the gamble. Like visiting a shrine at the hour of the ox in ancient Japanese sorcery to nail a cursed doll to a tree. Yeah. Oh, I don't know why this popped in my head, but Ramen, they make so much of Witch on the 100th Night optional content. I just did the whole chapter of the money, like the Dosh incident, or they called it, like, insane that you could just skip over that. Like, if you just continued the story, that was a huge thing. They busted a scamming cult. You finally learn, like, what's going on. Like, so much stuff happens. But I got to that, and I got to the Robin and Alice teaching you about, like, familiars in the, like, crayon style, which is very fun. The power of magic is always determined by the risk of the gamble, like visiting a shrine at the hour of the ox in ancient Japanese sorcery to nail a cursed doll to a tree. Magical power is produced specifically because of the risk that it will be seen within the 7 days the curse takes. It's also really funny that I'm reading Fate and A Witch on the 100th Night, a universe where magic is kept secret from society, and anyone who sees how magic is done has to be punished by death. And then we're watching Witch at Atelier, where magic isn't necessarily kept secret from society, but the way it's done is kept secret from society, and if somebody sees it, they can't. You know. Yeah, I'm making some progress. Magical power is produced specifically because of the risk that it will be seen within the 7 days the curse takes. The greater the risk, the stronger the magic power will be. Many miracles that happen in my myth might be called the crystallization of shocking magic power, with a low probability of occurrence and astronomical risk. That Moses parted the waters of the sea was not a miracle of God. The risk of that desperate situation, cornered by soldiers on the Red Sea shores, weighed upon the scales of slaughter and gave birth to that miraculous magic power. If the same thing occurred again on the same scale, the sea would surely fail to part. After all, Moses was able to magnificently summon a miracle engraved on but one of the countless innumerable results on the roulette of those with power. Cast hammer. Yeah, you know, sometimes you just got a neuralizer. You know. Snowball Earth looked cool from the previews, but I think that's not the... Right now on the weekends we're watching... so what they're watching with me is Witch at Atelier and... what's the other? Oh, Marriage Toxin. Marriage Toxin is very good. It's very good. Moses is my favorite wizard. Yeah, of course, duh. Marriage Toxin is a good time. That is the force that can triumph over astronomical odds. Because hotel Wi-Fi is bad, but not that. Sees a girl naked and forgets the whole thing. Yep. Man. Power of hotel Wi-Fi. Indeed, good fortune that can grasp miracles is magical power itself. To obtain this mighty power, one must face the risk of despair. Those who possess no magical power may call that desperation rather than a bet. However, people who truly do possess magic power can grasp hold of that miracle and make the enigma come onto being. And if that power exists within me, I'll seize that miracle. I'll have a chance at making the wish I devoted my life towards come true. Yeah, it's a visual novel. What's 140p gonna do? Ginzo looked up to the sky outside of the window. He spread his arms as if appealing to someone up in the sky. If only I were capable of grasping that miracle. Show me your lovely smile once more. No matter how much time passes, your face does not vanish. Just want to see you smile, that is all. I'll return everything you granted me. I'll return all the glory I've gained since that day. I don't need fortune, prestige, or gold. I'll return everything you gave me. New category, simp. And it just has all of him saying Beatrice, which I also know that already exists, not like as a YouTube video. If all the oohs exist, that exists 10 times more. Like I said, I was sure that all the oohs exist. I wasn't really positive, but the fact that that does exist means this definitely does. I'll return everything you gave me. I just want to see you smile. I beg you, Beatrice. Guy's having a time. His nonsensical yells became a scream and then a wail. Ginzo slumped to the floor, tearing at it with both hands. Genji had no choice but to wordlessly watch over his master's lamentations. So it's going great up there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the family head's health is not at its best. He seemed extremely sad not to be able to share lunch with you all. Definitely, now that you have gathered for this event that occurs but once a year. He easily would have killed all of y'all if it would have just gotten him a little... He doesn't even care if it gets him to see Beatrice. Just for some peace and quiet, he'd gladly get you all killed. Goda, let the lunch begin. Certainly. We shall begin today's luncheon. Dr. Nanjo, is father's condition really that bad? Couldn't you have at least let us see his face? It's more a problem of mood than a physical condition. And for that, there is no medicine I can prescribe. I haven't seen that meme, but like, yeah, that would do it. Yeah, very much. Hey, we're talking about his mood again? You gotta be kidding me. We took time out of our schedules during this damn busy autumn season just to come and find out how he's doing. Badly. Simpingly. And now he's... You should be happy, Rudolph. You now know how he's doing. Or what would you rather take? What would you rather take my place and try to persuade our ill-humored father to come join us? Are you kidding? Rudolph shrugged. Apparently, though Rudolph was willing to be indigent at how self-centered his father was, he wasn't particularly disappointed to be spared a face-to-face meeting. Does it seem like his mood will improve before dinner? No, I don't think his mood is going to improve before his death. Krasny-san? I have no idea. No. If you want to know that, you should ask him directly. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. All hate being around their dad. Yeah, crazy. Crazy that wealth doesn't breed warmth in families. Crazy how having all this money just makes you see your family as people who want to take that money from you when you die. Crazy. Oh, I think his mood will improve faster if we don't bother him. Genji-san's the only one who can get grandfather out of a funk. It's pretty pathetic though, making the servant deal with your own parents' bad mood. Jessica, don't speak out of turn. She had planned for her complaint to be heard only by her cousins, but it had reached even Krause's ears. Scolded, Jessica scowled and turned away, sulking. If he's as cranky as they make him sound, he can't be that terribly sick, right? I mean, they're saying he's in a bad mood, not that he's got no energy, which at least proves he's got his wits about him. No! You're confusing he's able to stand and move around with no impediment currently with having wits. Those are not the same. Those are not. Because grandfather has especially strong willpower. His willpower to simp is powerful. And drink, yes. However, that doesn't necessarily mean his body will be able to keep up. Since last year, they keep saying that he has 3 months left. If the initial diagnosis was correct, grandfather has been prolonging his life by willpower and alcohol alone. It's right for us to worry about him. Lunch started with the family head seat still empty. The man who should be sitting there had already grown old. And the brilliant glory which had rebuilt the Ushiromiya family in the span of a single lifetime was being forgotten. Even though they were beginning the meal with that seat still empty, no one felt it was that odd anymore. Oh. Alright, more time. The Ushiromiya Family Conference was held once every year on the first weekend of October. If a normal family were to hold a so-called family conference, you'd expect it to be nothing more than a reunion of rarely seen relatives who greet each other around buckets of sushi or something. However, part of the family's great fortune had been lent out to grandfather's children, and no one in this family was considered an adult until they had met with success in business. Wow. Wow. What if you wanted to do anything but business? Literally anything. You're not an adult, I guess? Alright. Oh yeah, look, it's like every JoJo shitpost ending with "to be continued" and roundabout, you know. Buckets of sushi is definitely not the measurement I'd expect. To be fair, I don't like most sushi anyway. So this meeting literally was a conference. How much of the fortune was invested? That said, fried chicken sushi, delicious. And honestly, most like veggie sushi, still very good. Like sweet potato sushi, avocado, love it. Very tasty. How much of the fortune was invested? What sort of business was conducted? How much profit was earned? As a result, how much of the fortune borrowed from the main family could be repaid? Or possibly how much more would be borrowed for future business ventures? What lessons had they learned, and what could they learn from their mistakes? Seems that topics like these were discussed very seriously in the past. My dad said it was like lying on a bed of nails. Apparently it used to be a very serious family meeting where people were bathed in scornful and angry voices. And some people even got slapped despite their age. However, that had become a thing of the past. Now, with everyone pursuing their own business ventures and achieving success, it was becoming more of a normal yearly get-together. Even so, telling grandfather about recent events was extremely hiccup-inducing, stressful. So while it was nothing more than a simple get-together, for us grandchildren, it was still a real stomachache for our parents. The absence of the man who was the source of all this trouble, regardless of the reason, probably made today's lunch taste much more delicious. The phrase, "while the demon is not around, everyone can relax," comes to mind. I guess the English for that would normally be, "while the cat is away, the mice will play." Anyway, let's introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen for 6 years. The man sitting to my father's left is his older brother and Jessica's father, Uncle... This name sure is easy to read. Kraus. Now that we've gotten used to the string of weird names, our perspective is totally skewed, so Kraus doesn't actually seem that bad. It even starts to sound kinda cool. Just like with Aunt Natsuhi, I don't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Kraus. He had never been one to chat to children, and I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Natsuhi. According to my father's gossip, he was a spiteful and violent man. If what he said is true, Uncle Kraus used to be very domineering from his position as the oldest sibling, and was despised by all the other siblings. Though despite that, those siblings all seemed to be chatting happily together. Oh well, money fixes all problems. I mean, even if their relationship was bad when they were children, sometimes when people grow up and get a lot of money and live apart from each other with a lot of money, their relationships change because nobody has to worry about money problems. That's probably what this was. After all, they all had children of about the same age. By sharing the same family environment, they probably profited by exchanging opinions and money. Maybe because of that, a short while ago, the circle of parents began to discuss the exams Jessica and I would be taking. Jessica, in order to escape questions about exams from my father, on her left, purposefully faced right while firing off a rapid series of comments and not giving him any chance to get a word in. Moving on, let's look at the end opposite from Kraus and the others. In the very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with sturdy physique sat facing Kiryu-san. This was my first time meeting him. I'd only just been introduced to him, but it seems he's grandfather's personal doctor, a man called Nanjo. I heard he used to own a huge clinic on the nearby island of Nijima, but he turned it over to his son and began living a life of leisure in his old age. He had known grandfather since the very beginning, and the mansion was first constructed on this island, and he had built up a relationship over several decades. I thought at first that the two of them might have gotten to know each other through grandfather's suspicious hobbies, but it seems he was actually grandfather's chess partner. I see, that kind of hobby seems very like our grandfather, or there's a love of all things Western. Nanjo's probably the only person who could enter Rokinjima despite being neither a family member nor a servant. He looked like a calm old gentleman as he listened to the discussion between Kyrie and the other women, who sat near to him. Considering how long he stayed by the side of our short-tempered grandfather, his generous heart was probably nothing to laugh at. Chess is a suspicious hobby. Yeah, obviously, it's too Western. Still, even if he was a family doctor, having anyone outside of the Ushiromiya family attend the family conference was a little odd. It made me think that grandfather's condition might have worsened so much it would be a major topic of discussion at today's conference. After all, George said something like that just a second ago. Something about how we've been getting continuous reports since around last year that grandfather didn't have long to live. It's nasty to think about, but consider how rich grandfather is. At the time of his death, his wealth will suddenly be released, probably along with a fair share of our parents' stomach acid. It'll lead to ulcers for everyone. After all, this sort of thing just gets messier when there's more wealth to be divided. It's a good chance they'll be talking about stuff like that at the family conference. Still, it's not like it's got anything to do with us kids. Finally, even though he hasn't shown up, let me introduce our grandfather. In a second, after I get a drink. The person who should be sitting in that incipient's chair is Ushiromiya Kinzo. It really sucks. His mental health, yeah. His drinking problem, yeah. No, I think his son had it too. Didn't Kraus have it? Maybe it is just him then. Everyone else in the family has these weird names, but he's got this perfectly normal one himself. If only his name were written Kinzo, but he let us call him Goldsmith or something. I totally freak out. Was I wrong? Hold on. System... Where is he? Yeah, double crest. Not as big. It's a smaller double crest. But yeah, double crest. As you can probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. one of his grandchildren, not a son, and I haven't seen him since elementary school. Thanks to that, I have no memory of being beaten myself, but our parents were apparently raised with an iron fist. That earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Kraus about who should go convince grandfather to come down seems pretty darn funny once you know their background. You can't really tell grandfather's story without covering that pivotal event back before the Showa era, 1926 to 1989. Until the Meiji and Taisho eras, the Ushiromiya family was great and prosperous. They owned several spinning mills, making them rich enough to just double over laughing every day as the money kept rolling in. Damn. Laugh out loud, rich. Laughing at how much money you have, rich, daily. That's... damn. Incidentally, grandfather was a member of a branch family and had pretty much nothing to do with the main family. Not only was he way down the list of people who could inherit the headship, but he had hardly any contact with the glamorous main family. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in the year Taisho 12, 1923, the mansion owned by the Ushiromiya family in Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire, and the Ushiromiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant. So once they started trying to figure out who the successor to the Ushiromiya family should be, they apparently found no one remaining except Kinzo and his branch family. In Kinzo's later reminiscences, he referred to this as good fortune so great that it overturned fate. Also, Topaz, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. Enjoy the lurk. All things come back to Umineko. Yes, even real-world history comes back to Umineko. With that, grandfather's boring everyday life did a 180. He was entrusted with reviving the dying Ushiromiya family, which had lost nearly all of its wealth. However, just because he had been entrusted with this task didn't mean he could accomplish it. Apparently those around him weren't really expecting much. However, this is when grandfather began displaying his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all of the family's remaining wealth, as well as everything from the hair on his head to his toenails as collateral, in order to borrow a massive amount of money. Who takes toenails as collateral? Once he'd built up a gigantic war chest, he immediately invested in businesses. It was like someone tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, and then jumping into the neighborhood bike, and then another one. Just like some crazy street performance. But everyone thought grandfather had no business ability whatsoever. Excuse me. However, after several miracles and turns of good luck, with coincidences piling up and every chance taken advantage of, he was suddenly in control of powerful connections with the occupying forces. Little creepy loan sharks? Yeah, probably. At that time, MacArthur and the GHQ were the ultimate authority in Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of an eye, began succeeding in business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very rich. By this point, it's probably safe to say that information, not luck, saved the day. He must have made some seriously deep connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew beforehand about the emergency demands that would be made for the Korean War. No, it was more than that. He must have predicted those emergency demands from the very beginning when he started investing his money. The history books make it sound like all of Japan made a large profit off of the emergency demands during the Korean War, but that isn't actually true. Only a very limited number of the super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, grandfather was a member of this extremely lucky group of winners. Pretty sure this all happened during the year Showa 25, 1950 or so. The Great Kanto earthquake happened in Taisho 13, 1924 or so. That means grandfather was able to revive the near-dead Ushiromiya family in only about 20 years to a level even higher than it had been before. Even higher than laugh at the peasants levels of money. Damn. With that, you'd think he'd revive the main family in Odawara. But for some reason, he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something that you can ordinarily do today. However, grandfather was clever. He contacted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine resource base. He acquired this island as a business property, then tossed that project aside and claimed it as his own plot of land. After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages, and having the sponsorship of the GHQ meant that nobody could oppose him. from what I've heard, the Tokyo metropolis of that day offered this land to him practically for free. Later, Tokyo made difficulties by telling Kinzo to return the land, but the pushy GHQ intervened. Anyway, it seems under-the-table bribes did their work well. Who would have thought? Bribing is effective. People should take that concept and, rebrand it and make it politically legal. And yeah, it seems like a way that could never go wrong. Anyways, in the end, the city gave up frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and good luck, managed to weather the stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune and his own island. Of course, it probably wasn't all luck. He was obsessed with all things Western, which helped him cultivate his English skills. Super Pax is the name. Yeah. He's able to use this to his advantage and sink his teeth into the GHQ. A mansion was built on the island soon after. This mansion, in fact. Grandfather, with his love of the Western style, made this once uninhabited island a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. He now had the Western mansion of his dreams, overflowing with emotion and atmosphere, and a beautiful garden featuring all sorts of roses. And he had a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint. This would be a dream come true for any boy. I feel like owning a private beach that no one else will ever set foot on isn't a dream of mine. I'd rather go to a public beach with friends than own a private beach and hoard it to myself. After that, he made good use of his huge fortune, becoming a large stockholder in the extremely stable iron and steel industry, and was able to live an easy and comfortable life just by using the dividends. Well, he's just that incredible. This kind of person usually has the ability to foresee and predict the future, or at least that is how they're portrayed after the fact. Grandfather denies all of that, repeatedly saying that it was simply blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that can't help but grow increasingly eccentric when locked up alone on an island, where all his dreams are made real. Everyone knows that he's had a Western obsession from the start. But none of our parents really know when his bizarre black magic hobby began. Did his love of black magic begin way back when he became fascinated with everything Western? Or did his miraculous stretch of good luck while reviving his family cause him to feel a mysterious power in himself? At some point, Grandfather began to make the research of black magic his life's work. He filled his study up with suspicious books, chemicals, and magical items as it became increasingly bizarre. Being alone on the beach, I know. It's like I'm not even a wealthy person that hoards all of that wealth and prosperity for themselves. From what I've heard, those around him warmly watched over him, figuring that someone who had achieved success in life had a right to do as he pleased, but there's no way that's true. They were probably just creeped out, thinking, that's disgusting. I don't want to get involved. Anyway, that agitated period was an age of big gambles, with both opportunities and risks. Let's say Grandfather was born in this time period. He would have had no opportunities and would probably have advanced like a chess piece from mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace, never becoming more than an average salaryman. If that happened, he'd probably have sat somewhere happily talking behind his boss's back. No, not in a fancy dining hall like this, more like at a table in some bar. Then again, I'll bet this family conference would be a whole lot more relaxing if that were the case. Yeah, clearly. Okay, that's enough about the old geezer. More importantly, let's talk about this incredible lunch. I'm already convinced by that sashimi salad appetizer. Koda-san's an excellent chef. Plus, these fish were caught in the adjacent seas, weren't they? Totally different from the sashimi you get at the supermarket. Hey, quit it, Battler. Don't admit to people that you shop at a grocery store. Your upbringing will be exposed. Everyone let out a big laugh. Damn it, you say that even though you love those cheap pubs. Well, cheap pubs have cheap ladies. I've eaten at many unusual places because of work, but this stands right up there with the best of them. I'd be willing to bet Goda-san used to be pretty well known in these circles. Well, I don't know the details, but stuff got complicated at the long-standing hotel he used to work at, what with them opening a new establishment with the same name and breaking into factions or whatever it was. Yeah, Oh, no, they definitely would think that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In the middle of all that, he was apparently forced to
それ
retire.
でその時
At that time,
おふくろが
Mom just
使用
happened to be
人の
sending
求
out
人を
job
出してた
offers
わ
for
け
a
なんだよ
servant. As Goto removed the empty plates, he began to recount his own bumpy past without losing a smile.
世の中というのは難しいものです。
The world is a difficult place.
しかし、
I thought the world was
そ
a
のおかげで
vampire.
こうして今日
However, thanks to the
一度
madam,
見
I
分
was
けで
given a
再
chance to
び
display
料
my
理人と
skills
して
as a chef once
腕を
again,
振るう
this
機会
time
を
for the
賜ること
Ushiro
が
Mia
できまし
family.
た。大勢の方の笑顔も嬉し
Although
い
I
ですが、
enjoy experiencing the smiles of a large number of
お
people,
使いする
I
と
also
決め
find
ば
it quite entertaining to perform more delicate work that can please the limited number of those who
繊
have
細なお
employed
仕
me.
事、これもすべて機会をくださった奥様のおかげです。
All this is thanks to the opportunity given to me by the madam. Goto-san respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Natsui. It's because you were the most talented of the applicants. The decision was purely objective, not based on personal feelings. There's no need to thank me. Dang, why does Aunt Natsuhi always have to sound so indifferent? If only she spoke with a bit more kindness, she might leave a different impression. Shannon-chan and Kumasawa-san entered from the hallway with a serving cart.
失礼いたします
Please excuse us.
それでは
Now,
本
let
日
us
の
move
デザ
on
ー
to
トに移ら
today's
せていただきま
dessert.
す。
Goto-san and the others laid the beautifully adorned desserts out in front of us. The nuclear headache. Mm-hmm. Bosses are a lot. Mm-hmm. I guess it's true what they say. You have another stomach for dessert. I thought I'd already filled up on delicious food, but as soon as I laid eyes on that dessert, my stomach started yelling, "More!" I don't know much about desserts, but this looked really good. A white pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce, and elegant rose petals adorned the dish. Normally, during a high-class meal like this, you're supposed to wait for the chef to extol the virtues of this particular meal before eating. However, Maria was completely indifferent to strict rules like that, so she got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert, jumping into the fray as soon as it was placed before her, probably shouting something about pudding. Aunt Rosa scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying, Now, it's okay. Ooh. This part's sour. This part's sour. Battler, this one's no good. Ooh. Maria exclaimed as she sampled the 2 colored sauces. What? Some are good and some are bad? Okay, I'll give it a go. Apparently one sauce is sweet and the other sour. Despite it being bad manners, I also stuck my little finger in and licked it. Whoa, one of the sauces was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I'd have suspected lemon, but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was putting away the serving cart behind us. Shannon-chan, what kind of sauce is this sour stuff? Yeah, they clearly are. It's because they're both the same mental age, so, they resonate. Shannon-chan hesitated. Maybe her job was just to set the table, so she doesn't really know. Still, even considering that, she seems pretty stressed. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. Or did they use some ingredients that we're better off not knowing about? While Aunt Natsuhi made a gesture that seemed to indicate an oncoming headache, Kumasawa-san, who was setting the table at the opposite seat, began to chuckle. What do you think we made it out of? Oh, it'll shock you. Already making clickbait thumbnails. How dare you? What was this sour sauce made out of? The answer will shock you. Huh? I don't have a clue. Wait a sec. Kumasawa-san. That laugh's pretty creepy. So what is it? Don't tell anyone, okay? Listen very carefully. Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. I leaned forward myself when she asked. Their interest caught Jessica, George, Aniki, and of course Maria also put their ears closer. Pudding and crazy face, yeah, uh-huh. Ooh, what? What? Quickly! Quickly! You see, the sour part is made from juice squeezed from a mackerel. What? Mackerel? Yeah, sometimes you just take a fish and just, and then you just reduce that and, got a sour sauce for a pudding. Duh. Thought everyone knew about this. That's crazy, we all thought, horrified. Only Maria accepted it, nodding sagely.
ほー
Ooh.
サバは酸っぱいよ
Mackerels are sour.
絞ったらこう
This is what comes out when you squeeze them. When Maria started clamoring that mackerel was sour, the adults were unable to contain their laughter.
違うわよ
Only Aunt Rosa, her face red, whispered to Maria that mackerel is sour only once prepared as shimisaba? Sure. Ah, now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me, too, in all sorts of ways when I was younger. The most lethal has got to be that one. Those flimsy black things in Chinese dishes. They're kikurage mushrooms? Kikurage mushrooms? She told me they were penguin meat, and I went all around school like a smartass telling everyone, didn't I? Kumasawa Ba-chan, you sure haven't changed. You know, Maria's gonna believe it now, right?
冗談ですよ
Just a joke.
今からゴー
Now
ダさん
Goda-san's going to
が
tell us what the sauce really is,
ソー
won't
スの正体を教えてくれ
he?
ますからね
And Goda looked a little put off about his masterpiece being laughed at for such a bizarre reason. But after clearing us out once, he introduced the dessert to us.
それでは
Oh, then allow me to introduce the dessert. Squeezed mackerel. After seeing how much you all enjoyed the rose garden earlier today, I finished this panicato in a rose garden style. The rose petals scattered across were selected just now from that very rose garden. The sauce is a combination of two reds, strawberry and rose hips. Please enjoy this mixture of the strawberry sweetness and the rose hip sourness. Furthermore, the rose petals are merely decorative, so please avoid them while you eat. The sushi thing. Okay. With that said, please enjoy. Whoa, man, I almost want to applaud before eating. Just like with medicine, reading the detailed description first seems to make it work a whole lot better. As Goda-san elaborated on the details of this dessert, it started to feel even more appetizing. Seriously, should you call him subtle or just talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but taking the hint when we all stopped in front of the rose garden earlier today, he displayed incredible and timely awareness by just adding a few rose petals from the garden. This combination of sweet and sour was also exquisite. If it was just sweet, you'd get used to it and bored halfway through. But if you reached the sour sauce at that point, you'd get a really vivid taste. And then once you returned to the sweet sauce, all the sourness in your mouth would be replaced with an enjoyable sweetness. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. Every time Goda-san passed by one of our seats, someone praised the taste of and his presentation. How is it now? Splendid as always. It is worthy of entertaining our guests. I'm most grateful for your words. Madam, did you know? I've heard that rose hip has the ability to cure headaches. Thought that you in particular would appreciate it, so I had it especially prepared.
そう
Is that so?
ありがとう
Thank you.
ほら言ったでしょ
See, didn't I tell you?
ナツ
Natsui Ne-san?
ローズヒップは
Rose
頭
hip
痛に
is
効く
great
っ
for
て
headaches.
みたいね
So it seems.
聞くといいんだけど
The rose hips don't lie, clearly. I do hope it actually helps.
ゴーダさん
Goda-san, I love you. Hey, later on, why don't you tell me how they're treating you?
無理ならあんた
Or
の
if you
欲し
can't,
い
just let me know what sort of
指
salary
だ
you'd
けでくれ
like.
るだけでもいいやであんたの腕
Having
が
your talent confined to the small island is sacrilege to humanity's cooking culture. What do you think about working your craft for my company and delaying all of our customers? Huh, Hideyoshi-san. Are you trying to steal away our Goda? Yes, from directly in front of you, unabashedly. Yes. Now that won't do it all. You better start treating Goda better, or he'll get snatched up. Yes, you really should. If you don't, someone's gonna grab him, and you'll be stuck with 3 meals of Kumasawa-style mackerel cooking a day, won't you?
これはこれは敵
That's harsh. Seems someone's holding a grudge against me. Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's mackerel jokes were a running gag that our parents had long since gotten used to. Kumasawa-san often claimed that mackerels had precious nutritional value, which could slow aging, make people smarter, and more. Supposedly, while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it helped prevent aging on the inside. Since she was still spirited enough to tell these kinds of jokes at her age, there must be something to that theory. In that case, if you'll excuse me, prepare yourself for tonight's dinner. I'll be cooking plenty of mackerel dishes for you all, so you better look forward to it. We sure will. Triple crested, oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, others might have the tattoo, but it's just not where you can see it. Which would kind of defeat the purpose if the whole point is to show it off. Can't wait to get all puckered up from tonight's shimisaba. Sounds wonderful. I wonder if they'll be serving any good Japanese sake. Oh, we certainly will. Haven't you heard of Rokenjima's famous mackerel shochu? Kumasawa-san, together with Shanan-chan, bowed and pushed the serving cart away. It was pretty funny to watch Goda-san, who looked like his show had totally been stolen, explain in a serious voice that we would be having calf steak for dinner. Kumasawa-san, thanks for doing that back there. She pushed her serving cart. Shannon bowed her head very deeply. I haven't done anything that requires thanks. Kumasawa may have played dumb, but she had obviously understood and saved Shannon in the nick of time. Back when Battler had asked about dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. Yeah, see, I'm not even a big steak fan, so it's a double for me. Like, I'll eat a steak, but I would much rather a burger or Salisbury steak. It's just, you know, a burger not on a patty. Like, I definitely like beef, but I don't know. Steaks are expensive. Steaks are traditionally cooked in a way that leaves too much raw meat for my liking. And then if you cook it all the way through, it's like, well, now it's just rubber. Like, it's a lose-lose. Yeah, no, that's fair. I also don't want veal. So that's understandable. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them would have required some quick wits. Shannon, who hesitated when hard-pressed for a response, was always suffering because of this small weakness. She didn't get blessed with quick wits, but she did get blessed with big tits. I mean, if only Shannon had a little of that craftiness needed to cleverly shake off a mistake like Goda, her life would have been a bit easier. The fact that she could perform other tasks flawlessly made this weakness even more unfortunate. However, there were some who understood Shannon's honest nature, her inability to gloss over a mistake and draw attention away from it. That was why Kumasawa had smoothly come to her rescue. Just heard from Genji-san that there would be change in the afternoon shifts. I believe you were given a break until this evening. I'm jealous. Huh? Oh, sorry, I haven't checked the shift chart yet. Ah, yes. I was thinking I might start cooking some mackerel in the oven. If you don't mind, I'd be happy if you would help out a bit before your break. Ah, yes. Yeah. Ah, yes, I'd be delighted to help. To Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother amongst the servants. The dining hall needed to be cleaned up, so we were chased out. Instead, tea was being served in the parlor. Apparently, they'd prepared the black tea that Aunt Rosa had bought for Aunt Natsuhi. Maria said she also wanted to have some black tea, but my old bastard said she couldn't and told us children to go play outside. Damn. Can't Battler-kun, why don't we all go for a walk outside? Go ahead and take a look at the roses or something. But keep a close eye on the weather. The sky is still clear, but the weather report kept on talking about rain. Ooh. I want to go to the beach. The beach! Yeah, that is weird. It's got, I mean, presumably the windows on the other side or the outside, but yeah. It's got windows into a hallway. Because no one in their right mind would say, ooh, ramen. That's why.
あら素敵
Oh,
じゃない
that sounds wonderful.
砂浜で
Laying
遊
on
ぶ
the
なん
sandy
て
beach
普
isn't
段は
something you
な
get
か
to
な
do
かでき
often,
な
is
いも
it?
のね。
そっか。
Ah, good point.
よし。
Okay,
じゃあ
let's all go to
みん
the
なで
beach
浜辺
then.
でも行こうぜ。
Ooh, let's go, let's go.
マリア、
Maria, be careful
服を
not
濡
to
ら
get
さ
your
ないように
clothes
する
wet
のよ。
at the beach
靴もよ。
or your shoes at the beach. And don't get any sand on you at the beach. Ooh, won't get wet. That obedience is so cute.
バトラ君、
Battle-kun, make sure you keep an eye out for
ちゃ
Maria-chan,
んと見
okay?
てあげてね。
おうよ
Sure, leave it
任せ
to
ろ
me.
おう
Hey, you're pretty obedient and cute yourself listening to Kyrie like that. Why don't you also listen to me obediently for a change? No.
まっぴら
Hell
ごめんなさい
no.
行こうぜみんな
Let's go, everyone, come on. The children flew out of the parlor. They were replaced by Genji, who pushed a serving cart in and prepared to serve the tea. The parlor was filled with a sublime aroma, which delighted everyone while they waited to sate their thirst. Rudolph's family certainly seems close. It's a wonderful thing. Quit it. We're no match for your family, Aniki. Your family, Jessica has only spoken ill of her parents. To be fair, Battler has only spoken ill of his father. So, they're all wrong? That's true. You've raised Jessica-chan to be so adorable. I imagine that's yet another fruit of your talents as education and training, Natsui-san. Thank you. Natsui answered coldly. The conversation broke off then, and the parlor fell silent. Maybe Hideyoshi couldn't bear the silence because he broke it himself with an exaggerated gesture. Still, they sure do grow fast. Thought they'd be kids forever, but they started getting huge all of a sudden. Then they're adults like us. Not his mom. Yeah, correct. Yeah, George doesn't seem to hate his parents. At least that we know. Everyone else really does seem to be like, no. Battler-kun looks like a completely different person now. His body has grown much bigger, but he's still just a kid. Though you could say the same about my husband. I wonder where the border between child and adult is. I still don't feel as though I've grown up. Isn't that pitiful? That's not something the mother of a child should say. That's right. Look, if there's anything I have learned as I have grown older, is that ain't nobody know what they're doing. Everybody's faking it. Nobody has a damn clue at all. That is the most truthful thing about the adults of this world that I know. As a kid, you're like, the adults know. They know what they're doing. No, they don't. No, they don't. No, they don't. They're good at pretending they do, though. Mm-hmm. The sitting room, the dining room's being cleaned. Go here. That's right. We're not children anymore. We're all adults now. So I wish we could talk together on an intellectual level rather than an emotional one. When Ava smiled with sharp sarcasm, everyone seemed to get more tense. It felt as though that pleasant tea aroma had been tossed out the window. Since long ago, we've always endeavored to engage in intellectual conversations. Seems your sarcasm occasionally misses its mark. Just as it always has. Oh, what is it you're always endeavored to do? My. I wish I could wrap those words up and send them to this room a few decades ago. Right, Rosa? Rosa gave a vague smile. She knew that, whether she agreed or disagreed, she'd earned the displeasure of one of her siblings. It was a bit of worldly wisdom that had been essential for someone growing up as the youngest sibling. Quit it, Aniki. We'd better get started on our main topic while the brats aren't around. Let us make that our intellectual discussion. As Rudolph glanced over the faces of all present, some let out a slight sigh and some let a small look of resignation cross their face. Time for the intellectuals. They were approaching their unavoidable true agenda. Last year, his life expectancy was estimated at about 3 months, which I guess means he's got negative 9 months left now. We take that to mean it might suddenly happen at any time. Family head still alive and well. He is exactly one of those things. The fact that you bring up such an inappropriate topic under the light of day makes me doubt your sanity, Riddle-san. You should doubt someone else's sanity? Still, Natsui-san, is the sort of thing you can't put off until after something happens. He's still healthy now, which makes this the perfect time to talk about this, while we've still got time to plan. It's just a bit of financial etiquette, you might say. Seems father is the focus of everyone's concern. Dr. Nanjo, did we hear the details from you? That appears to be what everyone else is waiting for after all. Nanjo, who'd been standing by the window and staring out at the rose garden, let out a single cough when he realized that he was being called. Dr. Nanjo, how's father's condition? Well, to begin, allow me to start with a revision, since my estimate last year that he had only 3 months left was not borne out. I need to explain. You're saying that measuring remaining life is only a prediction, not a promise, right? Yeah, kidding. That is correct. Because of that, while I will accept everyone's repeated questions, I can by no means confirm when he will pass away. A human's life is supported by their body and their mind. If the body is weak, the situation becomes more dangerous, but if the mind is strong enough to compensate for that weakness, the effects of one condition can sometimes remain in a subdued state. So you're saying that even if his body is weak, his mind is still firm and spirited. It's spirited. It sure is full of spirits. Chock full of spirits. Quirky, sorry, but please stay quiet for a bit. Wow! Wow, dude. Sorry. She was right! That is correct. Kinzo-san's body is being overwhelmed by the demon of ill health. This will hold especially true as long as he continues to partake of such strong alcohol. So, he's in a crisis now because he drinks. And maybe he's lived this long because he drinks. There's Dad for you, the heavy drinker. Well then, Doctor, I know you can't give anything more than a prediction, but what do you think about Father's chances of living until this day next year? Literally his wife, though. It's quite a rude question to ask about the family head. Natsui jumped on Eva, not even bothering to hide her astonished expression. Eva stared back daringly, but Hideyoshi realized what was going on and tried to smooth things over with a forced smile. Natsui-san, forgive her. Eva, choose your words a bit more carefully, okay? I'm sorry. I was just so concerned about Father's condition. Isn't that so? I hadn't realized. Dr. Nanjo, please tell us. For the sake of the beautiful love of a daughter worried about her father's lifespan. Kraus laughed sarcastically, and Eva, smiling sweetly, returned an identical chuckle. I asked whether he will still be healthy next year, but as a doctor it is very hard to say, because while I do think this lull in his condition will continue for a while, if he suffers some kind of fit, there may be nothing we can do. After all, Rokkenjima is a solitary island. It's not as though an ambulance could quickly jump in to save him. Normally I would want to have him placed in a large hospital in the mainland, but Father stated that he does not want his noble research interrupted. Seems he holds a grudge over the way we tried to force him out last year. Apparently he strongly suspects that he'll be shut away in some hospital if he goes outside. And that's how things are now. Has Dr. Nanjo been examining him? Father trusts Dr. Nanjo. Seems he can be examined when in one of his better moods. I can examine his condition, but if I try to recommend medicine or hospitalization, he refuses to listen. I've really only been able to look. It's true some people hate doctors. Still, what a hassle. Nanjo sighed deeply. The purpose of an examination is to determine what medical treatment would be appropriate. Receiving an examination and then not following the advice given makes the whole thing pointless.
つまりおさらい
So,
する
to
と
sum it up,
相変わらず余命
he's
は
still
3ヶ
expected to live
月
3 months.
禁止のまま
There's no way to guess how
あとど
long.
れだけ長らえる
He's still
か
expected to live 3
見当が
months.
つかねえってこと
We're not sure how many 3 months, but 3 months. No way to guess how long he'll continue to live while still on the verge of death.
ルドルフさん、
Rudolph-san,
言葉を少し
couldn't you be a
慎
little
ま
more
れてはいかがです
discreet
か。
with your words?
ああすまん
Sorry.
昔からこうい
Always
う
talk
口
this
の
way.
勘弁して
Give
く
me
れ
a break.
南條先生
I
のご意
understand
見
how
は
Dr.
分かり
Nanjo
ました
sees it. Yeah, an indeterminate amount of 3 months. He's going to live for 3 months until he definitely really suddenly kicks the bucket.
クラウス兄さんから見て
Probably screaming something about Beatrice while he goes. What about you, Kraus, Nissan? To be perfectly honest, I have to disagree with Dr. Nanjo. I find it truly difficult to think of father as a person so sick that he has only 3 months left to live. 3 months to a simp is nothing. His yell is as healthy as ever, and I still get chills at the thought of his fits raining down on me. Pushing the care of your father solely on the shoulders of the eldest sibling is far from fair.
来世では俺より
In the next world, get born after me.
さて
Okay, let's get back on track. Wow.
そんなわけで
So, the opinion of our impartial and neutral doctor, it wouldn't be odd for him to go anytime. No offense to you, Aniki, but I'd rather trust the opinion of an expert in his field. Which means it's definitely not too early to start talking about Dan's assets.
お父様の個人
Father's
資産
personal
は
funds probably reach
お
as
そ
high
らく
as several
数
10
百
billion
億に
yen,
も
right?
届く。でもそれは
It's not as though
綺
that's
麗な
all
現
neatly
金で
gathered
揃っ
as
てる
ready
わけじゃな
cash.
い。お誕生会
It's
の
not as
ケーキ
simple
み
as
たい
simply
に
cutting a birthday
綺
cake
麗
with a
にナイ
knife.
フが入ってカッ
姉貴の例えは面白いね
That's an interesting way to put it.
そうさ
That's right. You sometimes get strawberries or chocolates on top of the cake, making it hard to cleanly cut into equal parts.
それを加味して
Given that, don't you think it's
どういう
important
風
to
にナイ
discuss
フを入れる
beforehand
の
how
か
best to
先
stick
に
in the
相談
knife?
しておくのは大切なことだと思うぜ
I
それ
cannot
は
understand how you can
当主
all
様が存
openly
命のう
discuss
ち
this
か
as though the
らさも
family
他
head
い
is
なされ
dead,
たかのよう
even
に
though
声
he's
高
still
に議論
alive.
される皆さんの気が知れません。あ
Come now,
ら、
don't you
必
see how
要な
important this
話
is?
よ。だって遺産
After
相
all,
続
when the
は
time comes, the
その時
inheritance
点
of
で
his
直ち
fortune
に
must be
行
carried
わ
out
れなきゃならない
immediately,
もの
right?
よ。ましてや、
Moreover,
栄
the
光ある
glorious
後ろ宮家の財
Ushiromiya
産
house's
は莫
wealth
大。
is vast.
事前に
Don't you
入念な
understand
相
that
談が必
careful
要なことは
discussion
お
is
分かりでしょ
necessary
うが。
beforehand?
当家の資
There's a
産は
huge difference between this family's
あな
resources
た
and
の
your
ご実
family's
家とは
wealth.
大違いなんだから。失礼な。
How rude!
私の実家
My
は関
birth
係ありま
family
せ
has
ん。
nothing to do with this. Natsuki responded indignantly, though in a low voice, and the already dark atmosphere grew even more hostile.
予算かえ
Give
ば
it a rest, Eva.
夏井さん
Natsui-san,
他人
forgive
な
us.
口が悪いの
Pardon
は
her
許したってな
Hideyoshi tried to smooth things over by glancing at both with a forced smile, but it only resulted in making the hostility between Eva and Natsui even more intense.
これ以上は
Seems I'll just get in the way if I stay any longer.
失礼させ
Please
ていただ
excuse
き
me.
ましょう
Nanjo rose from his seat and exited the parlor. To an outsider, it may have seemed like a normal act of courtesy, but his back was watched by several glances envious of his ability to escape. After the doctor had exited and his footsteps had disappeared into the distance, Kraus recrossed his legs.
つまり
In other
お前た
words,
ちの
this
言
is
い分
what
は
you
こうか
all would like to say.
親父殿の
Father's
余命
remaining
は
life is
短い
short. Yeah. Smart.
遺産分配について
He gave his thing. It's like, no,
具体的な協議に
bye.
入りたい
He wanted to quickly enter into a practical conference concerning the distribution of the inheritance.
何を焦
Why are you
って
so
いる
eager, I wonder?
確かにお前たちの
Certainly,
言う
as you
通
say,
り
estimating and
後ろ宮
distributing
家の
the
財産を
Ushiromiya
算定
family's
し分
wealth
配
is
す
no
るのは
simple
簡単
task.
なことではなれば
In that case, shouldn't
じ
we
っ
make
くりと
careful
算
and
定すべ
deliberate
きじゃん。お
calculations?
前たちは今晩
Seems
の
to
うち
me
にお
that
ケーキ
you
を切
are
り分け
all
たいと焦っ
impatient
て
to
いる
split
よ
up
う
the
に
cake tonight.
そうだろう
Isn't that true,
どう
Rosa?
何を焦
What
る
reason
こと
is
が
there
あ
to
る
be
の
hasty?
かね
We aren't
焦
being
ってるわけ
hasty.
じゃないでも
However, we need to
兄
have an
弟の
agreement
間での
between the
取り決めは
siblings.
それは
Doesn't matter
いつで
when
も
we
いい
do
ことだ
that.
けどお父様
But
の
if the
具合
day
が
father's
悪くなって
condition
いて
worsens is
その日が
approaching,
先に話だけし
discussing
て
the
おい
matter
ても
beforehand hardly
それ
seems
は請
hasty
求
to
とは
me.
言わないと思うし
Rosa shot a glance at Ava and Rudolph. As the youngest sibling in the family, it was hard for her to be cross-examined by the eldest.
ほう
know is that your true opinion. Didn't expect that the most honest and pure-hearted of the siblings would say something like that. I wonder if those two told you to say it. Quit it, Aniki. Rosa's one of Dad's kids too. She's got as much right to his inheritance as the rest of us. It's only natural that she'd be interested. After all, Dad'll definitely die. It's not something that'll happen in the distant future. On the contrary, Aniki, you're way too relaxed. It almost seems like you'd like nothing better than to turn the discussion away from the inheritance issue. What do you mean by that? You're trying to accuse my husband of something? Calm down, Natsuhi-san. Listen to what we have to say. Nisan, I hear the times have been extremely good lately. Yes, since last year, we have been in an unprecedented boom, and the yen keeps on rising. Seems that it's no longer a dream that the dollar will reach 100 yen. Nope. Not a dream. Also, the ruling party says that it will establish health resort maintenance law by next year. At this moment, resort development companies across Japan are running about trying to gather as much funding as they can. You certainly seem to know a lot about it. Japan is about to experience an unprecedented boom. It will be a repeat of the Korean War demands, the time during which father revived the Ushi-Romiya family. People of Japan have been working like mad, achieving vast economic growth and becoming the most well-off people in the world, reaching the height of our prosperity. We've reached an era where private spending is vast, which means easy money for institutions that can capitalize on that fact. The three kinds of electrical appliances no longer represent the people's needs. The people need ski resorts, golf courts, public pools, resort hotels, and theme parks. Have you gone to Disneyland, which opened just a few years ago? Disney. Yep. What an excellent theme park. It's a place where even an adult can be a kid and have fun with his family. No longer do we count our sole virtue to be selfless devotion while failing to care for our families. We've become the most prosperous people in the world, and now we can finally enjoy the benefits. Foresight's nothing to sneeze at. When I heard that sort of thing several years ago, I thought it was crazy. But when I heard about the G5 Nations Plaza Accord, that all changed. The yen shot up, and it'll be the price of land, and I'll bet the price of land skyrockets soon too. Won't be long before Japan becomes the economic center of the world. Got a great sense of the direction the world's moving, Cross-on. At least there can be no debate about that. Feel the same as Hideyoshi-san. Aniki, you can lead into the next decade of history. I'll bet you got that keen sense from Dad, and it's incredible. However, unlike Dad, the timing of your predictions has been a bit off sometimes, right? Nisan, been starting resort projects everywhere, convinced that Japan will soon see a boom. Almost all of them continue to fail. While I'm sure that the era you predicted will soon arrive, it seems you misread the timing of that boom. You were too early. You then panicked and tried to sell everything off, which only opened the wound even further. If your nose was really so reliable, then there should be no reason for you to sell off your property. Is this proof that you mistrust your own ability? Rude. I like how her only two sprites are shocked and appalled and massive migraine. Are you trying to insult my husband? Natsui's forehead creases as she rose from the sofa. Eva, paying this no heed, stared at Kraus with a confident smile. Kraus, who also maintained his confident appearance, told Natsui to sit down. Please stop, Natsui. Eva's always been incapable of talking any other way. Calm down a little, or your headache will get worse. There's proof of your lack of talent right next to us. After all, Nisan, weren't you all excited about turning this island into a resort? You built a wonderful resort hotel and beautifully maintained the garden. Just an amateur, and don't pretend to understand, but you must have used a significant amount of money for that, right?
だからなんだというの
And
です
what
か
is that to you?
主人の事
My
業は
husband's business is
あなた
none
とは
of
関係ありません
yours.
いいや、そいつ
Actually,
は違う
that's
ぜ
not
夏
true,
井さん
Natsui-san.
六軒島は兄貴のものじ
Rokenjima doesn't belong to Aniki.
ゃ親父の
It belongs to Dad.
もちろん建てた
Of course, the
ホテル
hotel
は
does
兄貴の
belong
も
to
のだ
Aniki, right?
なんなら
In fact, we'd
俺
be
たち
more
は
than
今
willing
夜
to
の
pay
宿泊
lodging
料を
fees for
払ってや
tonight.
るな
What do you think, Rosa?
それはまあ持ち合わせで
If
足り
what I
な
have
い
on hand will suffice, sure,
リ
what
ゾ
she
ー
has
ト
on
化できれ
hand
ば
will
この島の
suffice.
資産価値
If
は
I can make it to a resort, this island's financial worth will rise.
支出がかさんだことは
It
事
is
実
true that expensives have piled up, but we can expect a large harvest in the future.
そうなれば
When that happens, all of you stand to profit as well, do you not?
それはわ
I
かる
understand
わ
that.
この島の
If
価
the
値が
value
上
of
が
this
れば
island
それを
rises,
遺
that will
産分
increase
配
our
する時
portions
の
when we
私たちの
distribute the
取り分も
inheritance.
増えもちろん
Of course, I
島や
won't ask you to
屋敷を
divide the
4分の
island
1
and
ず
the
つ引き
mansion
取るとは
into
言わ
4
ない
equal
わ
parts.
それを算
We
定
can
し
just
たお
resolve the
金
matter
で
with
解
money
決し
equal
て
to the
くれ
value
れ
of
ば
the
いいだけ
property.
の話よ
そこまで
You
分かってい
understand
る
that
な
much?
ら
What about my business makes you so
私の事業
dissatisfied?
に何の不満
不満じゃねえ
We
さ
aren't dissatisfied. We're
不安
uneasy.
第一兄貴
In the first place, Hanaki,
あのホテル
When
いつ
do
に
you
なったら
plan to
開
open
業
that
するんだ
hotel?
このままじゃ
Left this way, you won't get anything out of it except our grubby handprints, right?
そうよ
That's right.
大切な
It's
商
an
売
important
道
tool
具
for
で
your
しょ
business, isn't it?
確かに開業
Surely you
するま
can't
で
keep it
ずっ
locked
と
up until
鍵
the
をかけ
moment
て
you
おく
open it.
少しは使って風
Buildings
通
go
しを良
bad
く
if you
し
don't
ない
use them
と
and
建
air
物
them
は
out
傷ん
every
じゃ
once
う
in
も
a while.
のでも
Even so, it's a bit
私た
extravagant
ち
for
が
a guest
年に
house
一
that
度
we
泊ま
only
る
use
だけ
once
の
a
ゲス
year.
トハウスねえ
Right,
ローザ
That's right.
そうねあんなに素敵
Considering
な
how
ら
wonderful it is,
オ
I'm
ー
sure
プ
it
ン
will
したら
become
さ
quite
ぞや
popular
人
once
気
you
が
open
出る
it.
でしょうね
あ
Oh,
ああなたが
so
前
the
に言って
hotel you
た
keep
ホテ
talking
ル
about
っ
is the
て
guest house.
ゲストハウスのこと
立派なものだろ
Splendid.
ローザの言う
Just
通
as
り
Rosa said, if you were to
オ
open
ー
it,
プン
I'm
でき
sure
た
it
ら
would become
人気が出
popular.
るだろうよ
The lodging they had been guided to wasn't originally intended to serve as a guest house. It was originally constructed as a resort hotel. She really does, yeah. Perfectly hard on that exact tone. However, even though it was built 2 years previously, there was still absolutely no prospect of it opening.
兄さんのいつもの事業
Nisan,
と
it's
同
just
じ
like all
よ
of your enterprises.
着目
Your
や
attention
企
and
画
planning are
は
both
ご立派
fabulous.
そしていつも途
Then
中で
it
立
always
ち行かな
becomes
くなって何も回
unmaintainable
収で
partway
きずに
through
終わ
and
る
ends before you have a chance to earn any profit.
この島を
You were brilliant when you saw that using this island only as a place to live was a waste.
そしてリ
I
ゾ
think
ー
it
ト
was
化
a
して
pretty good plan to turn it into a
Marine
resort that
sports
could
や
use the
fishing
prospect of
や
marine sports,
ハネムーン
fishing,
やらを誘致して
honeymoons, and
盛
the
り上
like
げ
to
ようって
attract
のは
customers.
俺だって長男だった
If I were the oldest son,
この
I'm
島
sure
を
I'd have
何かに
strained my brain
有効
looking
利
for a
用
way
で
to
き
make
な
a
いかと
profit off this
頭を
island.
ひねったに違い
でももう
But
出
2
来
full
上がっ
years
て
have
から
passed
2
since you
年も経
finished
つの
building,
よ
right?
2年経って
After 2 years, you still haven't had the opportunity to open it.
任せてる管理
Where's the
会
managing
社は
company you
どこ
entrusted it to?
失敬な
Impertinence!
それは主
That
人
is
の
not
手
my
落ちではあ
husband's
りません
fault. There has just been some trouble with the company that my husband contracted with. No matter how you look at it, we are victims here.
しかし
And
な
yet,
クラウス
the
兄さんが
rumors we've heard
任
about
せて
this
る
company you
例の
hired
とこあまり
haven't been good at all.
聞かんで
はっきり言って
Let's
あ
be
げな
clear
さ
about
い
this,
よ
dear.
不払
Did
い
you
横
really
領
think we
トラブル
wouldn't
で
hear
計
about
画
how
が
lack of
空中
payment,
分解し
embezzlement,
ちゃ
and
ったっ
other
て
issues led to the
話
project
私
disintegrating
たちの
mid-flight?
裏も取れてるんだか
We even
ら
have evidence.
何の裏だか
I don't
存じ
know
ま
what
せ
kind
ん
of
が
evidence you think you
事
found,
実
but it's
無
all
根です観
baseless.
光業への新規参入には
As new members
方
of
々へ
the
の根回
tourism
しが
industry,
必
it
要
is
になります
necessary for us to lay the groundwork with various people.
相手が信
It
用
is
に
also
足りるか
important
を
to
測るこ
investigate
と
the
も大事です
trustworthiness of our partners.
それに手間取っているだけに過
It's
ぎませ
merely
ん
taken us some time to meet that goal.
ホテルの完成が
I'll
早す
admit
ぎて
that in my
勇み足に
rashness, the
なった
hotel
こ
was
とは
completed
認
too
め
early.
るだが
However,
維
it's
持
not
費
as
が
though
かか
we're
っている
paying
わけじゃ
maintenance
ない
costs.
やがて大きな
It's
意
a
味を持つ
foundation that will
設
eventually
備だ
become immensely significant.
嘘つけよ
Liar.
生産した
I'll
くても
bet you
売れ
want
な
to
いだけ
liquidate
だ
it
ろ
but can't.
観光ルートの
After
確
all,
立して
there's
な
no
い
reason for
何も
anyone
な
to
い
buy
離
such
島
an
に
extravagant
やたら
hotel
豪
on
華な
an
ホテルなん
isolated,
て
empty
大
island
手が
without
つく
any
わけだもん
established sightseeing routes.
それに
Anyway,
事業
What about all the loans you made for this project? Even if you aren't incurring maintenance costs, the borrowed money that you can't return just keeps growing. Sorry, Kraus-Nissan. But I've investigated the development plans for this island a bit. To be honest, I haven't heard anything good either. Excuse me. Hideyoshi-san. I can see how you might be left with that impression by looking only at the current financial situation. However,
これは
this
先
is a
行投資な
forward-looking
ので
investment.
その読みを
I have
誤
no
り
choice but to admit that
こ
my
れまでに
prediction
多
was
くの負債を
mistaken
生んでし
and
まっ
that
た
up
こと
until
は
now
認めざる
several
を得ない
liabilities have been created.
だが
However, the times
よ
have
うや
finally
く
caught
時
up
代が
with me.
私に追いつこれまで
I
に
will
失っ
soon
た分
regain
はすぐに
everything
取
that I
り
have
戻
lost
せ
up to this
いや
point.
それどこ
No,
か
actually, all of the
これま
investments
での
I've made
投
until
資だ
now
って
will
やがて
finally
は
return
私
to
の
my
元に
possession.
戻ってくる
That's a bold proclamation.
そう
That's
例え
right,
る
just like throwing away a small
花
fly,
たちが
a
裂け
fry,
となり
which then becomes a
肥えて
salmon. They will come
帰って
back
くる
even
よ
bigger than before. Sure.
それは認め
I'll
る
accept that.
これから
The resort
リゾー
business
ト
will
業
probably
界
see
は
an
空前の
unprecedented
好
boom
景気
before
を
long.
迎えこれまでの
I don't know if it will be enough to cover all your debt.
だがな、クラス
However,
兄
Cross
さん
Nissan,
これまで
after
散
all your
々
failures in
負
the
け続け
past,
た
who
兄さん
exactly do you
が
expect to
どこから
provide
軍
you
資
with
金を
funding?
調達それも
This
半
isn't
端
some
ない
small amount
軍
we're
資
talking
金や
about.
あれだけの
You'll
穴
need
を
enough
埋め
funding
ら
to
れる
fill the
軍資
massive
金
hole you've dug.
秀吉さんは
What are you trying to say,
何をおっしゃりたいの
Hideyoshi-san?
ですか？
ああ、夏
Ah,
さん
Natsui-san, please don't get
怒ら
angry.
わしら
You
も
know
調
she's
べたん
gonna.
や
We looked into this too.
これま
We
で
checked to
負け
see who
続
might have
きのク
provided
ラウ
Kraus
ス兄さ
Nissan
ん
with
に
enough financing to
最
support
近
his
の
recent
強気な
large-scale
莫大
projects
投資を
despite
支
his
え
string
ら
of
れるほど
failures.
の融資を
結果
And we discovered it was the Yakuza.
ええんだよ
No such backer exists.
弱り目と
The
逆に
iron
張るの
rule
が
of the money
マネール
roulette
ーレッ
is
ト
that
の
you
鉄則
bet against the loser.
兄貴はこの界隈
Aniki,
じゃ
you're a fairly
ちょい
well-known
と知
loser
ら
in
れ
this
た弱
field.
り目さ。確かに時代は好
It's
景気を
true that
迎えようとしているが
prosperous
こ
times
れ
are
ま
about
で
to
の
come,
兄貴の
or
失敗
prosperous.
等を天
But
秤
when we
に
looked for people who considered that enough to overlook your string of
その
failures
上で
and also had enough for the
融資に値すると
investment,
思う連中がいるのかって言ったら誰も
we
いなかっ
found
た
no candidates.
ならね
So,
そのお
the
金
big question
を
now
どうってことに
is
な
where
るの
you got
よ。
that money from.
ほう
Oh,
興味深い
now
話じゃ
isn't this intriguing?
それで
And, dear,
このような
how
暴
long
言
do you
を
plan to let these
いつまで
ridiculous
放置
remarks
されるつ
stand?
もりですか？
座れよ
Sit
夏井
down,
さん
Natsui-san.
担当直入
Let's
に
cut to
言
the
う
point.
兄貴は
Aniki, you've been
親父の
diverting
個人
Dad's
資産
private
を
funds for
自
your
分
own
これはほ
businesses.
ぼ間違
There's
い
pretty much no room for doubt.
これが俺たちの
If
誤
you
解
think
だっ
we've
た
made
ん
some
なら
kind of mistake,
どう
please
かぜ
feel
ひ
free
そ
to
れを解
explain.
いてもらいたい
ルドルフ、
Rudolph, don't
流
call it
用なんてもんじゃないわ
diverting
よ。
bonds.
これは
This is
横領
embezzlement,
よ。
plain and simple.
刑事告
A
発で
huge
きる立
crime
派
that can
な
be
犯罪
criminally
なんだか
prosecuted.
ら。
This sort of rudeness cannot be tolerated.
仮にも
How can you
後ろに
face
本
the
家跡継
successor
ぎの
of the
後ろには
Ushiro
クラ
Miya
スに
head
向かって
family and level
信じ
these
られ
absurd
ない暴言です。
accusations?
暴言じゃ
They're
ない
not
わよ。
absurd.
図
They're right
星
to the
で
mark.
なんとか事業
I'm
を
sure
成
he'd
功
like to
させ
somehow
て、
make his
これ
business
までの
succeed
損
and
失を
recover
埋
his
めた
losses,
いん
but
だ
his
けど、そ
debt
の
keeps
穴は
getting bigger.
博打の穴
He's
を
just trying to cover up
さ
the
らに
failures
大
of
きく
one
張った
gamble by
博打
making
で
an
埋め
even
たい
bigger
だ
one.
け。その軍資
It's only
金が
natural
す
that
ぐ
he'd try
近
to
くにあ
grab
った
any
な
source of
ら
funding
手
close
を
at
つ
hand.
け、はっきり言うわ。
Let me be frank.
兄さんがしている
Nissan,
のは
what
横
you're
領
doing
よ。
is embezzlement.
お父様に対する裏切りよ。
You're betraying father, who is of very sound mind right now.
しかるべき
You
決
know
着
that
が
we'll
つい
have
た
the
後
court
に
settle
は
this after
司
it's all
法
over,
に委ね
right?
そんなや
Do
か
you
らに
think that
後ろ
kind
宮
of
本家
person
跡
has
継ぎ
any
を
right
名
to
乗
call
らせる
themselves
と
the
思
successor to the
い
Ushiromiya head family?
言うに
Of
こと
all
書
the...
いて
You dare to claim that he has
当主様
betrayed
へ
the
の裏切
family
りと
head?
この栄光ある
You
後
no
ろ宮
longer
家の
have the
資
right
金
to
をまたぐ資格は
straddle the threshold of the
もはやあなたにはありま
glorious
せん。
Ushiromiya family.
即刻
Leave
ここ
this
出て
place
き
at
な
once.
さあ
Now. Get out. Natsui, who had already reached the limits of her anger, shouted at Ava in a rage. She then pointed alternately at Ava in the hallway, demanding that she leave. Ava took out a folding fan and fanned herself with it, glaring maliciously at Natsui, as though silently daring her to repeat what she'd said. However, her mouth was still smiling, curved into the shape of a crescent moon. In that unpleasant silence, Rosa gulped.
ね
Hey,
え、夏姫姉さ
Natsui-ne-san.
ん。誰
To
に
whom
向
do you
かって
think you are
そんな
speaking in
口を
such a
お
tone?
聞きなの？無礼極まりない。
Speaking to the
主人の
exceedingly
妹に
rude
対してです。
sister of my
これ以上
husband.
は
As the
私
person
も
in
本
charge
家
of
の
the
台
main
所を
family's
扱う者
kitchen,
とし
I
て
cannot
引き捨てられま
overlook
せん。
any more of this.
台所
In charge charge of the kitchen. Ooh. Ooh. Be silent, lowly maidservant. Damn. Ava folded the fan of the snap and rose to her feet energetically. Compared to the elegance and playfulness she'd shown until a second ago, she was now unimaginably aggressive.
バカバカしい。お前が下が
Foolish,
り
you
なさい。
stand down
この
before
後ろ宮
Eva
エ
of the
ヴァに
Ushiromiya family.
当主様の
You
左
tell
肩を
me
許
to
さ
stand
れている
down? Me,
後ろ宮家序列
Ushiromiya
第三位
Eva,
の
the
この
third
エヴァに
ranked in the
下が
Ushiromiya
れ
family
と
hierarchy and the one allowed to sit at the left shoulder of the head?
身の程を知りなさい。そしてお前のそ
And
の
then
みす
look
ぼ
at
ら
your
しい姿を
shabby
鏡
self
に
in
映
a
してみる
mirror.
が、お前の服の
Where's
ど
the
こ
symbol
に
of the
翼
wing in
が
your clothes?
どこに片
Where are
翼
you
のわ
permitted
しが
to
許
wear
さ
the
れている
one-winged
のか。
eagle?
貴様など
Aren't you nothing more
後ろ
than
宮
a
家の
borrowed
跡継ぎを
womb to
残す
house
た
the
めだ
next
けの存
successor
在
of
じ
the
ゃないの。
Ushiromiya family?
身の程をわきまえるが
Understand
い
your
い。
place,
こ
you
の下
common
女が
housemaid. Damn. Right, Topaz? Damn. Ava's face twisted hideously as her words gouged into Natsui's heart like talons wrenching at it. There were 100 ways Natsui wanted to respond. However, her anger and sorrow crushed her throat, and none of those words managed to make it into her mouth. Her anger had nowhere to go, and became a single hot tear that slowly dripped down.
何
Damn. What's wrong?
何か
If
言
you
い
have something to
返
say,
したいな
please
ら
do so.
ほ
Come
ら
on. Ava faced her with a provocative gaze. However, Natsui could do nothing but tremble, her clenched fist quivering. Kraus quietly broke that powder keg tension.
夏日
Natsui,
席を外
leave
し
your
なさい
seat.
頭を冷
You
や
should
す
go
と
cool your head. What? Natsui, resenting the fact that her husband had not come to her aid, shifted the focus of her attack. Dear, don't you understand what they're saying about you?
さっきから何を言われているのか分かってるんですか。
Yeah, and he knows it's true.
この人たちは
These
言う
people
に
are
ことを
baselessly calling you a traitor to father.
私たちが後
They're
ろ宮家
making
の栄
light
光を
of the
守
fact that we protect the glory of the Ushiromiya family, even though we are constantly expending every effort to earn that glory from
お
father.
父様からそれを受け継ぐため
They
日々
trample
高潔
all
な
of that
あろうとす
underfoot
る
with
全
their
ての努力を
hateful
ないがしろにして
rambling.
あなたもあな
And
た
you don't
で
even
す
try to fight
どう
back.
して言い返さ
Why?
ないんですか。
Because he knows they're right.
あなたが言い返さない
I'm
から
only
私が
standing
言
up
い
for us
返して
because
いる
you
のに
won't.
さっ
But
き
you've
から
been
あなたは
putting
私
the
の
entire
負けっきり
burden
で
on me for some time now.
その私に
And now you tell me to go
頭を
cool
冷や
my
して恋なん
head?
ていつも
It's
私は
always me.
私は
Even though I has
い
always
つも
considered
真
this
剣
family
にこの
affair
家
so
のことを考
seriously,
え
you
ている
legal or otherwise, yeah. Huh? Couldn't even spare any ibuprofen for your wife's constant stress headaches? Natsui was already unable to hide her tears. She flew from the room in that state. After that, all that remained was a somewhat embarrassed mood about the parlor. When the sound of footsteps grew distant and silence returned, Kraus shrugged his shoulders slightly.
妻が失礼
I
した
apologize for my wife.
昔から
She's
感
always
情を
been bad at
抑えるの
controlling her
が下手
emotions.
私も苦
It's
労
even
して
been
いる
rough for me.
あんな
If
のに
that's
切り
what's
盛り
been
されて
managing
た
your
んじゃ
household, you must
兄
suffer
さ
to
んも
no
気分
end,
が絶えない
Nisan.
わね。
奥様
Madam, it's nothing.
なんで下がりなさい。
Leave me be. Natsui flew into her room and threw herself onto her bed, lamenting. Those heart-wrenching sobs reached Kumasawa's in the hallway.
おいたわしや奥
Poor
様
Madam Natsui.
奥様とエヴァ
There's a
様
deep
は
enmity between
犬
her and
の
Eva
この
sama.
お二人の関係
Explaining their
を説
relationship
明
would
す
be
る
very
のは
trying for me. as
女
a
の
woman.
後ろ宮家は
The
血を特
Ushiromiya
に
family
重んじ
holds
られま
blood
す
in
が
high regard, but if a woman marries and leaves the family, they are
本来
normally
は序列
removed
から
from the
除
family
籍され
register.
ますですから
Thus,
エヴァ
under
様も
normal
本来は
circumstances,
秀
Eva
吉
sama
様
should
との
have
ご
been
成婚の
removed when
際
she
に
married
除
Hideyoshi
籍さ
sama.
れるはずだったのところが
However,
これは
there
誰
is
の
no one
せいで
deserving
も
of
あり
blame
ま
in
せん
this matter.
ましてや奥
The
様
madam
のせいで
certainly
あろう
bears no
はずの
guilt.
神様の
There's
気ま
nothing
ぐ
to
れ
call
で
it
し
other
か
than a
言い
whim
よう
of
が
God.
クラウス様とナ
Kraus
ツシ様
sama
に
and
は
Natsui sama
なか
were
なか
not
子
blessed
宝
with
は
children for
授か
some
らな
time.
かったの何しろ男
After all,
尊女
this
卑
is the
の後ろ
male
宮
dominant
家でござい
Ushiromiya
ます
family.
妻は
A wife is
後
merely a
継ぎ
tool
を
to
残
create
す
an
ため
heir.
の道具
Damn. Like, I know they've mentioned it multiple times, but like, damn. If such a wife cannot fulfill her only duty, she will not even be treated as a human. Pains me to remember how the master tortured Madame during that time. Back then, a wedding between Eva-sama and Hideyoshi-sama was being discussed. Eva-sama was sly. Taking advantage of Madame's inability to become pregnant, she gained the favor of the master. She inspired him to allow her to marry and give birth to a successor herself, making sure to avoid transferring her name out of the Ushiromiya register. There was a vast difference in the Ushiromiya hierarchy between Madame, who married into the Ushiromiya family, and was treated like an outsider, and Eva-sama, who was related to the family by blood, and whose husband took on the Ushiromiya name. Furthermore, Eva-sama actually gave birth first into a boy. As for how much weaker Madame's position was than Eva-sama's, well, I believe you could see for yourself. I'm sure Madame is tormented by the thought that only she had gotten pregnant earlier, the master wouldn't have accepted Eva-sama's request to keep her last name after marriage, and Eva-sama wouldn't have been permitted to act as arrogantly as she did today. However, that was not Madame's fault. All of the blame lies with God's whims and the stork that delivered Jessica late. Even so, Madame won't allow herself to see things this way. She probably can't help but cry bitter tears as a woman at her inability to carry out the duties expected of a wife. Ah, how sad. I cannot do anything except watch over her from the shadows. Oh. Man, that was a stressful half hour. I guess now we're going to the beach. It's good. They all kind of suck in their own ways. Which it's not that we didn't know that before. But, you know, we crossed the hall again on our way to the entrance. As we did, we once again spotted that witch's portrait. However, spotted is probably not the best word to describe that experience. It was more like our eyes were inexorably drawn to it. That woman's eyes, with their sage-like glamour, definitely had the power to make those who viewed it stand rooted in the spot. So this is the witch, Beatrice. I wonder if that story is true. Ooh. Battler doesn't believe. Yeah. She wasn't that mean. Back when he had asked what this picture was, the first person to tell him had been Maria. Therefore, when Battler showed signs of doubt, Maria must have felt that Battler didn't have faith in her. Of course, that wasn't what Battler meant. Maria ran up to the portrait and began banging on a plate hanging below it. Maybe the title of the portrait was written there. Maria, trying to prove that she wasn't lying, obstinately continued to hit the plate. Ah, sorry about that. It's not like I doubt anything you said, Maria. Ooh. Battler believes. Ooh. When he patted Maria's head and apologized, she seemed to accept it, sticking out her chest and proudly oohing. What's this? My beloved witch Beatrice. Behold, the sweet fish river. What's with this weird, huge epitaph? The plate did have the title of the portrait written on it, but it was much too big to contain only that. Beneath the title was what appeared to be a long epitaph. If you just skimmed over it, several unnerving words would jump out at you. Incredible, isn't it? Grandfather had that made. Pretty deep, huh? Ooh. I know. It's the place where the gold's hidden. Wait, is that the story about the Ushiromiya family's hidden gold? Now there's another thing I remember from long ago. Hold on, Anaki, is this for real? Grandfather had this made, but he never said anything about this picture or the epitaph. Even so, amongst the family, it is often whispered that it indicates the location of grandfather's hidden gold, and that he will relinquish the inheritance and the gold of the person who solves the riddle. Ooh. I heard that too. Lots and lots of gold. Well, something like that. Something like 10 metric tons of gold bars. I think it's fake though. Still, when you read about it in an epitaph like this, it almost seems real.
マジかなって気になっちまう
I
な
think I already explained grandfather's upbringing. But let me also mention the Ushiromiya family's Legend of the Gold. Grandfather succeeded the Ushiromiya family after it was destroyed in the Great Kanto earthquake. And by successfully riding the stormy seas after the war, he managed to accumulate great wealth. That much of the story everyone knows, because he told us like an hour and a half ago. However, this is where the strange part begins. Part of it involves grandfather's black magic obsession, so its credibility is extremely low, but, well, wait until the end before you doubt or make fun of it. After the war, grandfather correctly predicted what the future would hold and won a huge gamble, accumulating a vast store of wealth. But there is a mysterious legend about how he gained his initial funding. Grandfather came from a branch family and had no connections in the business world or the financial world. Even though he later built connections with the occupying forces, he supposedly started as a nameless person who keeps young, who hadn't yet gained anyone's trust. It takes trust to gather money. There's no way anyone would lend money to someone they didn't trust. And a grandfather, who had no reputation at all, managed to obtain his first vast chunk of funds. When asked that question, grandfather supposedly answered like this. On a certain day, I encountered the golden witch Beatrice. That's just the power they have. Grandfather then went on and on about his continuing research into alchemy and techniques for summoning demons in order to become a great magician. And the entity summoned as a result of the demon calling ceremony was the golden witch Beatrice. He then apparently made a contract by which he would receive fortune and honor in exchange for his own soul. The witch then granted grandfather 10 tons of gold. Grandfather used this gold as collateral to prepare a vast quantity of funds, which he then used to multiply his wealth many times over and revive the Ushiromiya family. It seems this story is so old that even our parents were told it when they were still children. So back when our parents were young, they explored this island in all sorts of ways, believing that the gold grandfather had received from the witch might be hidden somewhere. However, since there was the danger of them getting lost in the abandoned forest, grandmother began to spread the story that a witch lived in the forest and approaching it was forbidden. I remember that old story. When we were little, we also went all over the island searching for treasure after our parents told us about it. Didn't we get lost in the forest once and start crying until some of the servants found us? That's got so mad. Love the concept of the parents being like, there is wealth beyond what you could possibly imagine buried out in that forest. Don't go out in the forest. You know. 550 million USD. Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that. Pretty happy. Damn, that takes me back. We sure were idiots, weren't we? After all, grandfather only bought this island after using those funds to get rich, right? That means he must have had the gold before coming here. There's no way the gold's on this island. Not necessarily so. The 14 Discord? Oh. What is it? I mean, it's not wrong at all. That's not necessarily so. Maybe the gold was hidden on the island from the beginning, and he brought the whole island just to ensure that it'd be his and his alone. There was a whole 10 metric tons of it, right? Seems more realistic that he tried to secure the place where it was hidden, rather than try not to move it at all. This epitaph was made 2 years ago, and since grandfather wrote it himself, yeah, it does make the legend about the gold seem more believable. The so-called witch's gold that revived the Ushiromiya family weighed 10 tons. Maybe that's sleeping somewhere, ready to be turned over to whoever can solve grandfather's riddle. Maybe that's why he did it. Yeah, guess it sounds like grandfather's style or something. If it's true, that's pretty incredible. The epitaph carved into the plate was very mysterious, with something like a poem or a song written on it. That text was incredibly disturbing, filled with the signs of grandfather's black magic hobby, and its contents were in truly bad taste. But it could definitely be viewed as a puzzle, which, if solved, might lead to the hidden gold. Whether that's what he intended or not, I can't even imagine what his true motive might have been. All we know for sure is that grandfather put this shady epitaph here so that everyone in the family could see it. We also know that he's hinted at the existence of the gold without ever talking about where it might be hidden, at least so far. These facts then were embellished by the imaginations of our parents, who were convinced that grandfather was challenging us to a battle of wits. Sounds just like my dad, so greedy that he takes something like this so seriously. He may laugh at grandfather's black magic obsession, but he'd still believe the story about the hidden gold. This sounded so good. Well, it's certainly not a realistic story. At that time, when grandfather was still nameless and had no connections, there was no way anyone would just lend him a massive quantity of gold bars for free. If such a person actually did exist, it's not unthinkable that grandfather would call such a sponsor a witch. Yeah, but it's 10 tons. 10 tons! You cashed it in, how much would it come to? About 550 million USD. I mean, it'd have to be a ridiculous amount, right? Certainly would be a ridiculous amount. They say that the total amount of gold mined by humankind since the dawn of history is 100,000 metric tons at most. That 1/10,000th of all the gold humankind has obtained throughout history should belong to just one person is just insane. On top of that, this witch supposedly had all that gold collected in one place and was able to lend it to grandfather just like that. We're not talking about any ordinary person. Well, to me, that 10 tons number seems pretty fishy. After all, no one's actually seen it except grandfather, right? Even if we assume that some generous witch existed and lent him some gold, maybe it was closer to 10 kilograms than 10 tons. Even 10 kilograms would be a pretty incredible sum, right? Ooh. 10 kilograms of gold is how much? Mia, who wasn't following the story and felt like she was being spoken to in riddles, finally found a place where she could ask a question. It was a question I also wanted to answer right then. Whether it was 10 kilograms or 10 tons, it still felt like a huge amount, but I had no idea exactly how huge. George Aniki folded his arms and tried to remember the market price of gold. Well, even the value of gold is depicted on the market. The value of physical gold can change depending on its purity and the trustworthiness of the foundry. You also need to pay handling fees to cash it in. However, it doesn't change the fact that it's a precious metal, and some people estimate that humanity will mine all the world's gold within half a century if gold mining continues at its current rate. Just guessing haphazardly, I think you could expect a price of about 2 million yen per kilogram. Whoa! Just now I randomly said 10 kilograms since it sounded smaller, but even that would be worth 20 million yen, wouldn't it? Ooh. I weigh 28 kilograms. Which means that if we had Maria-chan's body weighed in gold, we could estimate its worth at over 50 million yen. It's just unbelievable. How much would 10 tons be then? 10 kilograms is 200 million, 20 million yen, which you multiply by 1,000, so... Huh? 20 billion yen? What the hell? How much is 20 billion yen actually worth? We can only measure it relative to our own pocketbooks. Anyway, let's say that a person's wages over a lifetime are about 200 million yen. You grow up and work like crazy, sacrificing your life for your company, and you're finally freed as you approach old age. Everything, including retirement money, might add up to about 200 million yen. In other words, that's the amount of money that will be made throughout a human's life. No, you could even call it the value of a life. So 100 times that sum is an unbelievable amount of money. If you work from age 20 to age 60, that's 40 years of work. So it's equal to 4,000 years of work wages. If you worked every day, starting from the Jomon period, you'd only reach that number about now. Ooh. Is 20 billion yen a lot? Yeah. Heck yeah, it's a lot. Maria, you love shortcake, right? You could buy more shortcake than you could possibly eat for the rest of your life. However, while that might be possible with 20 billion yen in cash, I don't think it would be very realistic to have that much in gold bars all in one place. Just as I said, gold is extremely heavy, so it isn't exactly convenient as a method of storing wealth. Sure, you can imagine someone gathering their fortune together as incredibly high-value stocks or precious gems. You often hear of people who trade their wealth for precious gems so that they could carry it around with them during the chaotic times of the war. But you don't usually hear stories of people exchanging their wealth for gold. It may be heavy, but it's the most trusted and stable form of wealth internationally, so maybe that was important. For example, bonds are just scraps of paper if the whole country goes under. You can also look at it that way. It's been asked a lot, yeah, you know. But even 1 kilogram ingot is pretty heavy to carry around. Haven't you heard? It weighs about 10 kilograms. A 50 kilogram person can't carry a 50 kilogram bag over their shoulders. With that many gold bars, the amount of labor and risk for one person would be hard to calculate. So what you're saying is, while it'd be one thing if you had a stack of banknotes worth 20 billion yen, 20 billion yen in gold would be such a big mountain that practically it'd be kind of pointless. That's right. Although the legend of the gold does have a pretty interesting ring to it. Just the part about the 10 tons of gold makes it pretty much impossible. Think about it logically to that. It sounds obviously fake. Kind of brings you back down to reality. Anyway, that's grandfather for you. Maybe he exaggerated the story of how some kind, wealthy person gave him a loan by saying he got 10 tons of gold from a witch. Even the number 10 tons feels pretty symbolic. I mean, like his gratitude for the money he borrowed was worth 10 tons of gold or something? Maybe some rich man's leisured wife generously granted it to grandfather. And maybe he started calling this person a witch. I see, Jessica's example isn't bad. Someone who generously lent a huge sum of money to grandfather when he still had no reputation might as well be called a witch. Also, hey Pots, how's it going? Welcome to Viperland in the chat. Correct, it is not MS Paint. This is factual. How's it going though? Hope your night's well. Hope 999 was good. Furthermore, grandfather actually did use that money to build a vast amount of wealth later on. If plot, oh my. The fact that this person was so great at judging people might also justify calling her a witch. Also, since she went to the trouble of lending all that money, she might have enthusiastically overseen how it was spent. It's the time with the plot dumps. I believe it, yeah. The only thing I'm aware of right now is that Potts definitely knows how to score a hand at Baccarat. The decision to unexpectedly get involved with the occupying forces and profit from the Korean War demands might have been inspired by the witch herself. That might explain why he claimed to have received both wealth and honor from her. Plot hook to man. Okay. I knew it had to happen. I will not. I see. So in other words, this witch let grandfather the funds necessary to revive the Ishiramiya family, and he owed her big time. And then he felt so grateful that he had that huge painting drawn and displayed. Yeah, that's not that crazy a story. It's even possible this person was an old granny who looked like a witch. Maybe grandfather idolized her and that's why he had her drawn to look so beautiful. I'll bet if we ever did meet this person, she wouldn't be nearly this pretty. That's possible. The name Beatrice sounds pretty Western. And if you think about how everyone in our family has Western names, maybe even the name Beatrice is the result of grandfather trying to rearrange some Japanese person's name to make it sound Western. I get it. That means this pretty girl doesn't exist outside of this picture. Guess that means I won't be able to rub those elegant breasts. In the first place, isn't having a witch pretty bizarre by itself? Like you could find something like that anywhere on Earth. I laughed and made fun of the witch, trying to distinguish myself from the kid I was 6 years ago, who feared the witch of the forest, when Maria tugged on my sleeve. I said, okay, it's okay. It's late. I get it. I could tell by how hard she pulled that she was a bit upset.
Huh?
What is it, Maria? Ooh. Beatrice exists. Maria stared up at me. She had on her usual sour look, but I could tell she was angry with the color of her eyes. That's not how eyes work. Oh, I'm so far behind. I'm on the step where I just need to do roulettes, and I just haven't done the roulettes. I also almost never actually do. I almost never actually do like the high level roulette, like ever. Level jobs, cool. I'm almost on leveling dancer, so you know, progress, slow. Yeah, good luck. Witches exist. Witches exist. Ooh. 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 You get a dope mount if you do it. Well, sure they do exist if you turn on the TV and watch anime or something. Exist! Witches exist! Ooh, ooh, ooh. Started getting impatient, not knowing why Maria was jumping on me like this. Then Jessica tapped me on the shoulder and whispered, "Dumbass, you're smashing a kid's dream." Crafters and gatherers? Whew. Crafters, as long as you don't care about what... gatherers, as long as you don't care about what you're gathering, are not difficult to level. You can just go find a fishing spot, fish for a while, go to a different spot, fish for a while. You'll level it. You'll level it. Crafters, I level a lot of those with the allied tribes. Okay, good luck. Maria really believes things like witches and Beatrice exist. Come to think of it, Maria-chan in social studies at your school, when you were asked to write what you wanted to be when you grew up, you wrote a witch, didn't you? Maria nodded seriously. Tears started to run from the corners of her eyes. I see. To a girl who wants to become a witch in the future, the existence of Beatrice was proof that witches do exist in this world. See ya, pots. And was therefore an image that she yearned after and admired. Exist. Exist. Witches exist. But Battler still doesn't believe. I figured side quest, yeah. You shouldn't do every fish. You shouldn't do every side quest either. Just torment Ramen with it. Just make it so you can just open your map and have Ramen go like, oh! Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's okay. Witches do exist. To be fair, I am exactly 3 fish away from having all of the big fish in La Nocia, which is further than I ever thought I'd get. So, you know. No, I get it. It's fair. It's okay. Witches do exist. I believe it. George Aniki kneeled down and hugged Maria's head. Watching this, Jessica poked my side. So that's what it is. It's like shouting that Santa Claus doesn't exist in front of a child who believes in him on Christmas Eve. I'm not the kind of guy who likes to shatter kids' dreams. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to make fun of your dreams, so I apologize. Monster like you? How am I a monster? No. Beatrice does exist. Even now, she's living in the forest and comes to the mansion every night to peek in and see what everyone's doing. I'm not a monster, no. So you shouldn't go into the forest. At night, you mustn't stare into the dark forest. You might be seen by the witch of the forest, Beatrice. After all, grandmother said so. Ooh, but scared. Really? Battler really believes? Yep, I believe. Sorry for doubting it. Come on, let's make up. Stuck out my hand, Maria grabbed it with her tiny hand, and we made up. Maria didn't grumble any more than that, so George, Aniki, and Jessica were relieved. Yet, considering they just met today, they have formed the tight bro bond very quickly. Oh, so this is where all of you were. I was sure you had just left to go to the beach. Shannon-chan, carrying a basket, was surprised to find us all gathered in front of the portrait. Ah, Shannon. Well, this is the first time Battler has seen Beatrice's portrait. He was just fascinated by it. That's right, it certainly is fascinating. Beatrice-sama is truly beautiful. I'm sure that she captivated the master. That would be putting it mildly. In addition to the patron theory, there's also a theory that she was grandfather's first love. Either way, although it's been several decades since he met her, even now she holds a special place in his heart. All of it. The bits that aren't withered by absinthe. Which must mean that he's still captivated by her. Sheesh. That must have made grandmother pretty jealous, huh? Not really sure, but that might actually be true. Apparently grandmother believed he was cheating on her with some blonde. Ooh. Good smell. No, cheating does not smell good. Good smell coming from Shannon. Maria, sniffing, approached the basket Shannon-chan was holding with interest. After hearing that, I noticed a fragrant scent with a touch of vanilla. I apologize. I was told by Kumasawa-san to bring them to everyone. What is it, I wonder? Oh, excellent. Cookies! Delicious. Ooh. Wanna eat cookies? Wanna eat cookies? Ooh. Please eat as much as you would like. But, would it be appropriate to serve cookies in a place like this in front of the portrait? Shannon-chan sent us a glance that seemed to ask what we wanted to do about it. Well, yeah, guess eating here would be bad manners, generally speaking. Maria, why don't we eat someplace else? Let's put the cookies in a bento and have a picnic. Ooh. Have a picnic, have a picnic! If we can eat cookies, let's go! Yeah, let's get some fresh air. We shouldn't stuff ourselves right in front of the witch. That's right. Didn't we say that we wanted to go down to the beach in the first place? Let's go, let's go. Shannon-chan. Sorry, but could I ask you to get us a blanket to sit on and some flasks of tea? Right. Certainly. Shannon-chan received her instructions and gracefully bowed before retracing her steps. We headed for the beach on our own. Everyone headed for the entrance in a group. Feeling as though that witch was staring down at our backs, I turned around once more. Ooh. Battler, you still don't believe? Nope, I believe. It'd be so much cooler that way. The golden witch Beatrice gave grandfather 10 tons of gold. And that gold might be sleeping around here somewhere. Besides, didn't grandfather write that strange epitaph that's so challenging us to find it if we can? I'd say that kind of adventurous story is way better. 20 billion yen worth of gold, huh? Even if we split it up between the four of us, that's still a ridiculous amount of money. 5 billion yen for each of us. Incredible. For that kind of money, you could probably make any sort of business prosper. In fact, we could live our whole lives fabulously without working at all. Ooh, ooh. I don't want 5 billion yen, I want cookies! Cookies! Maria would take cookies over money. Still, 5 billion yen, that's like a dream. Don't get me wrong, love me a good cookie. I would definitely take 5 billion yen over a good cookie, though. Think of how many cookies you could buy with that. Look, not for nothing, the amount of wealth that you could just put in a bank and live off of interest on, or like, maybe not a bank, but like you could invest and just live off of dividends and interest. Yeah, that's pretty life-changing. Or you could buy a cookie factory. Yes, it's true. Ridiculous. She chose cookies? She's no daughter of mine. Is it possible that you all truly believe in Father's legend of the gold? Yeah, exactly. Of course we don't believe that story is about a witch giving him gold. But there's no mistake about the gold itself. The fact that Father obtained gold bars from an unknown source has been confirmed in several ways. Yeah, the fun half of the family. We've heard that before the president of the Maruso company died, Father showed him a large pile of gold somewhere. Father used that man's claim as proof that there were 10 tons worth. It's just the nonsense of a senile old man. Along with father, he was just fabricating a story. You can't take it seriously. If that gold didn't exist, he wouldn't have been able to gather so much funding. Before the president died, he was a person with such a sincere personality that he earned the respect of many in the business world. He wouldn't have become a partner to such fraud. Aniki, the president of Maruso definitely saw it. 10 tons of it, clearly with his own eyes. Even more, Dad let the president take one ingot at random and have it examined. The results of the examination showed that the 10-kilogram ingot was 99.99% pure. He said that the Ushiramiya family crest of the one-winged eagle was imprinted on it. Almost instantly, the Ushiramiya legend of the gold spread amongst the fixers of the business world. Gold from an unknown foundry has a poor rate of conversion into money. Thinking that it was a chance for decisive profits, they accepted it as collateral. And as a result, father was able to receive massive loans. Is there no limit to the absurdity you're willing to accept? How old are you people? Are you still taking that nursery tale you heard as children seriously? Where is the proof that this 10 tons of gold even exists? Aren't you just parroting the lies of father and a few of those close to him? Of course it's just a story, but still, Aniki, the amount of money Dad raised required a suitable amount of collateral. Even if the gold itself was just a rumor, it is an undoubtable fact that he showed them a treasure of comparable worth. It was just an illusion of money created by our penniless father. He acted as though he actually had gold that didn't exist, fooling his sponsors. It was probably the gamble of a lifetime. Yeah, people often give giant loans to people and they're like, yeah, don't worry, I have a ton of gold. 10 tons. I can't show it to you. You can't see it. You can't hear about it from anyone but me. But you should give me those loans because I have 10 tons of gold. It's collateral. Just give me the loans. That often works. Luckily, his use of those funds proved successful. Yeah, it's one bar. I have hundreds more. Trust me. If the Korean War demands hadn't come and the Ushiramiya family had not been restored, father would probably have been hounded after as the crook of the century. So you're saying the gold never existed and father made it all up? Of course. And because of that, the illusion of gold became a mere inconvenience once he'd achieved enough success. That's why, later on, father added all that about a witch and black magic, weakening the credibility of the entire story. In other words, he revealed that the illusion of the gold was a fabrication. If he claimed to have received the gold from a witch, no one would believe that it existed at all, right? It's also possible he said it for all of your sakes. Nevertheless, here comes some stupid offspring wanting to divide up this non-existent gold along with the rest of the inheritance. Rosa, don't tell me that even you believe in a fabrication like this. I can't prove whether or not father really had the gold. I just want to claim my rightful share as one of father's 4 children. Oh, seems even you have started to talk that way, Rosa. I see, so that's what you're all getting at. You're trying to claim that I'm attempting to keep all the gold for myself. Nisan, you've gathered a massive supply of funds. That's a fact. If we rule out the possibility that you've been embezzling father's personal funds, which we probably shouldn't rule out, then there's only one possibility left, right? Aniki, we've been thinking. You might have found those 10 tons of gold bars. Ridiculous. Such a thing never existed in the first place. Then explain yourself. Was it embezzlement of father's assets or father's hidden gold? Either way, you're doing something shady. How can you have gathered so much funding if not by one of these methods? Even I have many friends in the political and financial realms. Yeah, and most of those people aren't in the habit of just giving money away. I have earned their cooperation, nothing more. And on that matter, I have no responsibility to explain myself to you. Didn't they say they already looked into all the people who had the type of money that he's been borrowing? And all of them are like, nah, he's on a losing streak, we wouldn't. You understand, don't you? There are some topics that ought not be spoken of, like me and how I get my money. Y'all shouldn't worry about that. If you insist on that point, it's all well and good for now. But Aniki, Dad doesn't have long. Nobody can assure that he'll live to see this day next year. The inheritance process will begin at the instant of Dad's death. We'll arrange for lawyers and accountants who are impartial to all of us and have them inspect Dad's financial situation. At that time, if it comes to light that you've unjustly interfered with Father's money, you understand, right? I don't have a clue what you're talking about. You're starting to make me feel as indignant as my wife was. Of course, Father's gold is part of Father's fortune. We understand it's money you can't reveal openly. The 4 siblings should have an equal right to it. In other words, we're going to have your financial situation investigated as well as Dad's to determine whether you've hoarded the gold or not. Isn't this a great opportunity? Right now, prove the existence of your so-called support from friends and acquaintances. That way, we can accordingly apologize for foolishly doubting you. Yeah, that's the thing, like... If he really was like, no, you guys are wrong, he'd be like, and I can prove it. But he's been like, no, you guys are wrong, and you should stop asking. Right, Rosa? That's right. Kraus-Nisan, you are the one who's dodging the issue. If you were guiltless, you could just prove that you were in the right, but you aren't even trying to do so. Just as I said seconds ago. However, Aniki, we still have to consider your position here. As Dad's representative, you're probably bearing a larger share of the burden than we are. We've been living terribly relaxed lives until now, so it wouldn't be fair for the rest of us to complain without taking your efforts into account. So, seems you cannot make up your mind whether to flatter me or slander me. Yes, we've chosen both. Please get to the point. I thought the point was made long ago. How are you getting this money? If you're embezzling from your father, we're gonna legally go after you. If you're hoarding the gold, we want it split up. Basically, randomly investigating nitpicky aspects of Father's wealth seems like a pretty crude way to go about it. As you said, Kraus-Nisan, there may be movements of money that are difficult to explain. We've come to consult with you today, while fully aware of that point. Both sides stand to gain from talking about this now. A consultation? Ho. When the inheritance is divided, you'll be rewarded for your years of hard work taking care of Dad by an agreement that's generous in your favor. Don't misunderstand us, Nisan. We're not saying that we'll abandon our rights, but when we make our claims for what we deserve, we might as well offer generous understanding for your position. That's what we mean. In other words, if you accept our conditions, and when the inheritance is divided, we'll leave the investigating of Father's financial situation to you, Kraus-Nisan. All of the siblings from Eva downwards suspected that Kraus was trying to steal their father's wealth. So letting Kraus report the state of that wealth was extremely contradictory and a huge concession. If, as they claimed, Kraus was actually embezzling money, Kraus would be able to hide that fact. Besides which, it would be possible for him to control the distribution of the inheritance in a manner favorable to himself. Kraus, realizing that this sounded too good to be true, couldn't help but feel suspicious. He couldn't help but worry about what they'd ask for in exchange. So he decided to keep calling everyone a hoe. After mistrusting me completely, you now say that you're willing to restore your confidence in me as the eldest sibling. So what is it you want in return? Just what we deserve as siblings. You aren't the kind of person who'd steal Dad's property, but you also aren't being financed by some patron. Considering all that, there's a certain explanation that'd satisfy the rest of us. Nisan, you found 10 tons of gold. Use that as collateral to gather some funding. Yes, just like Father did in the past, right? If that's the case, there won't be any funny business in Father's finances. We've always been a good son, looking after Father. Why do we mistrust a person like that? Being so roundabout, I can barely understand you. Please speak in clearer and more practical terms. Our first condition. Aniki, you must admit that you found Dad's gold. You're asking me to admit I possess gold that doesn't exist? Our second condition. You'll acknowledge that each sibling has a right to a share of the gold, and you will pay out those shares. foolish. With that non-existent 20 billion yen of gold, that would be 5 billion per person. You're telling me to pay a total of 15 billion yen? Ridiculous. Keep listening till the end. We know that much money can't just pop up out of nowhere. We're not asking you to make an impossible deal. Of course, regarding the proportions of the gold, we plan to reward you plenty for your hard work until now. A third condition. The portion of the gold to the one bearing the title of successor to the Ushiromiya head family will be 50%. The remainder will be considered the fair share for the siblings and divided up. Of course, this also includes you, Krasny-san. Of the 20 billion, 12.5 billion will go to Aniki. 2.5 billion will go to Eva-ne-san, 2.5 billion will go to me, and 2.5 will go to Rosa. The division scheme makes me so grateful I could cry. So you're saying for the sake of the gold that doesn't exist, I must pay you 7.5 billion yen. What's wrong? Nissan, your share is 5 times the size of ours. This is such good terms, I'd be jumping for joy. Our fourth condition. The gold will be liquidated and distributed along with the inheritance at the time of father's death. However, as a deposit, 10% of her portions are to be paid to us promptly. These payments must be made before March of next year. What do you think, Krasny-san? This is an ideal chance for you to restore the trust regarding your handling of father's assets, isn't it? Of course, it might be impossible to get all 7.5 billion before father dies. But it should be possible for you to manage a deposit of 750 million, right? Paying 700 million in half a year might sound like a pain, but you should be able to manage it. With all your friends in the political and business spheres? Normally, we'd hope to receive the 7.5 billion right now, and all at once. But out of concern for you, we'll show our sincerity by asking for only 10% of that for the time being. The remaining 90 can wait until the inheritance is distributed. See, even you'd be capable of managing a mere 10% to show your sincerity. So you're trying to sell me the right to assess father's financial situation for 750 million yen? How impressive. You all certainly have grown. To think that I am now the one being offered deals. Lisa, if you accept these terms, the rest of us siblings will leave the investigation of father's assets to you. However, the results of that investigation will be subject to scrutiny. It's only natural, right? It would be so sad if you manage things so that our 7.5 billion share shrink. We'll avoid complaining as a general rule. Just make sure you do it neat and tidy. So sad. As long as you don't try anything that's blatantly obvious, we've got no intention of stirring things up. We want our inheritance quickly, too. We don't want to get it all drawn out and left hanging. When a complaint is made, who would carry out the follow-up investigation? We don't mind if it's you. This is probably the first and last chance for us siblings to reach a consensus. I believe it won't come to that. Looks like even you can speak up now then, Rosa. By this point, it's obvious that Kraus wasn't at all trusted as the oldest sibling, so there's no need to go into detail. The formerly tyrannical oldest brother had always abused his privileges and violated the other siblings' shares. It was in response to this that the other three, now adults, were finally teaming up and striking back for the first time. Sorry, but there's more. Our fifth condition. This decision must take precedence over father's will. Later on, we don't want some will to appear and make this decision completely irrelevant. I see that you're very cautious. Well, let me ask, if the gold really were found, what would you do? Since you'll be making payments to us for what the gold's worth, the rest of us, really, don't care if we ever see the gold or not. You can think of our shares as an advance payment. It's good to have dreams, isn't it? You plan to turn this island into a resort, right? You might stumble upon the gold by chance during the construction. Ava let out a high-pitched laugh. Kraus watched but didn't even flinch. Let me add a seventh condition before I accept. In the situation that any sibling other than myself finds the gold, they will immediately turn it over to me. Yes, yes, of course. We'll hold on to it for you.
交渉するわよ。
It was a play on words. Of course, the others who were forcing Kraus to pay money for some non-existent gold wouldn't save Kraus his portion if they actually found it. From the beginning, this deal had been nothing more than a threat directed at Kraus. Yet nothing. Regardless of the actual facts, it was still extremely likely that Kraus was embezzling his father's assets. When Kinzo faced death at last and had his inheritance distributed, some unpleasant facts would surely come to light. That could easily become fatal to Kraus. The others had spotted this weak point and were threatening their brother under the veil of compromise, trying to wring a huge sum of money out of him. However, they'd forgotten one thing. They'd forgotten that their brother's brain moved so swiftly, at least when it came to cunning and guile, that they'd been forced to band together to combat him. While Ava couldn't stop smiling, sure of her victory, Kraus let out a gloating laugh to show how relaxed he was.
とても良い話じゃない
This
か
all makes for such a touching story.
私も
My estrangement from you all has left a deep pain in my heart. If accepting these conditions means we siblings can become friends again, it would please me to no end. I'd be happy to agree to your deal. Rejoice, Rosa. We have reached an understanding. Rosa's expression dimmed. It was never a good sign when her brother started talking like this. Ava also keenly picked up on this. That's why she was unable to wipe away a sense of unease, even though Kraus had obediently accepted the deal.
嫌にすんな
My,
よね。
how obedient of you.
兄さんらし
It's
く
not
も
like you
ない
at all, Nissan.
それは
What
ひ
a
どいじゃ
cruel
ない
thing to say.
私に
Are
し
you
たもの
implying I
が
have some
あるという
ulterior
のか
motive? Money, probably. If I were to guess. Yeah. A family fighting over inheritance in a big isolated manner? Nah. No, nothing bad.
あるわけもな
Of
い
course
さ
I
お
don't.
前た
I'm
ちと
just the
同じ
same as
だ
all of you. Except richer. And more embezzling. Just the same as all of you. They seem to emphasize just that one part. The color of Rudolph's face darkened. To him, it sounded as though Kraus was saying, I have a plan similar to yours. So Rudolph panicked. He rushed to bring this nearly resolved discussion to a conclusion.
ならいいんだ
Then we're good.
じゃあ兄貴
So, Hanaki,
ここにサイ
would
ン
you
をもらえ
mind
る
signing here?
今の話を書き出
This
した
is a
俺た
written
ちの誓
contract
約書
summarizing the discussion we've just been
人
having.
数分ある
There's one for each of us.
同じ内容に
Everyone will
全員
sign
が
for the
サイン
same
する
contents. Rudolph took 4 written contracts out of his breast pocket that had the details of their deal written on them.
クラウス兄さんの
The
提
seventh
案した
condition you
条
proposed
件
will of
なら
course
も
be added
も
right
ちろん
now.
安心したって
Don't worry
な
about that.
兄貴
Hanaki,
ペン
need a
使う
pen?
か
Rudolph took a fountain pen out of his breast pocket and offered it to Kraus. Kraus made as if to accept it, but then, with a small laugh, he drew back his hand without taking and spoke.
実は
Actually,
この取り
in
決め
order
を
to
確か
ensure
に
that
履
this
行す
agreement
る
is
ために
properly executed, I'd like to propose an amendment on just one point. As soon as Kraus said that single sentence, all of the siblings felt as though something ominous was creeping up their backs at the same time.
ダ
That
メよ
won't
も
do.
う決まった
We've already
話よ
decided, haven't we?
黙ってサイン
Just stay
を
quiet and sign it.
エヴァ
Why are you in such a hurry,
何を
Ava?
もちろんサイン
Of
は
course I'll
する
sign.
お前たち
I
に
promise the share of the
分
gold going to all of you will be 7.5 billion yen. I also promise that when father's inheritance is distributed, I will cleanly and neatly liquidate it.
だが
However, there's one point that I simply must insist that you compromise on.
何の話だよ
What are you talking about?
どの点が
What
気
don't
に
you
入らない
like?
ってんだ
分け前の
The part about
1は
promptly paying 10% of your share, 750 million yen. As you pointed out, my financial situation is far from prosperous. While I can guarantee that I will collect on various future investments, I must admit that I am quite poor at the present moment. In short, I have absolutely no money that I can move around right now. I am incompetent, and my business sense is dull. Since I am the loser you all claim me to be, I don't have the power to move 750 million yen in just half a year.
そん
That
な
can't
は
be
ずは
true.
いい加減なこと
They're
を
trying to
言って
deceive
この
us with
場を
such a
ごまかす気
half-baked trick. At the time of the division of the inheritance, I will liquidate everything at once. Remove the condition that I must pay you 10% in advance. That is the only condition under which I am willing to sign.
クラウス兄さん、この1割は
Kraus Nissan, that 10% is nothing more than a number to measure your sincerity, isn't it? All things being equal, you shouldn't have any room to negotiate at all. We're doing you a huge favor by offering to let things slide for just 10% in good faith money. Now that we've explained that, you're rejecting our offer would seriously damage our trust and relationship, right? Hideyoshi had a humble expression on his face and was rubbing his hands together, but his eyes weren't calm at all. Kraus had already seen through to the shadow in the depths of those eyes. Why are you all in such a rush? Or could it be that you're afraid of something? Rosa, won't you tell me alone, secretly, so the rest of the siblings can't hear? It's not as though I...
別に
Quit it, Aniki. All we're asking is whether you're going to sign or not. Just forget about making any strange deals or any other suspicious moves. Oh, you say I have no room to negotiate? Are you trying to claim that I am in a weak position, which therefore puts us in an unequal relationship? You've admitted that you're broke. It is pretty well accepted that you are embezzling money. Yeah, I would say you're the weaker position for negotiations right now. Yeah, I would say that. Shivers began to crawl up Rudolph's back. He began to feel himself getting overwhelmed by the height of his brother's completely insurmountable wall and the long shadow that had existed since they were children. Shouldn't deals be made between those on even footings? From my perspective, this deal will help restore the long-lost trust of my younger siblings and deepen the love between us. It's an old problem that's been eating at me, and one I would prefer to resolve as soon as possible. Cool, so sign it. I'd be overjoyed if we could resolve it today. However, it seems I'm not the only one who'd be quite glad to close this deal quickly. Am I wrong? Kraus stared at each of his siblings. They avoided his gaze with animal-like instinct. Only Hideyoshi was slow in avoiding it. So, he was caught by Kraus's gaze. Hideyoshi-san, I hear your company has been doing extremely well lately. At a brisk pace, it went public, and both its track record and its stock prices have soared. I'm truly jealous. We're not here to talk about my husband. However, it is unfortunate that you have neglected your stockholders. It's even more unfortunate that you were unable to solidify your base when you became stock listed. Before you realized that some bad-natured colleagues of yours had brought up a huge share of your company's stock, right? How could you know about that? The same way you knew about me. If it's possible to collect evidence proving that no one would offer a loan to me, then it's possible for me to collect evidence on you. Is it really so unexpected as that? Kraus grinned broadly. In contrast, Hideyoshi's face was rapidly turning pale. Hideyoshi's company was a restaurant chain management company that he'd started from nothing. Thanks to Hideyoshi's management efforts, the company had achieved success repeatedly expanding its range, and a petition to make it a stock-listed company had recently succeeded. The greatest advantage of being in the stockholding system is that you can sell stock certificates and gain a large amount of financing. That amount tends to be far greater than a business's normal profits. So this is an extremely effective way to gather massive funds to expand a business even further. However, in exchange for financing the company, the stockholders gain certain rights. They're given rights that allow them to observe and guide the company they're invested in, leading to profits even greater than their original investments. This right is guaranteed to the stockholders, and they sometimes use it to dismiss ineffectual management. The right allows them to keep an eye on management and prevent the money they've invested in the company from going to waste. However, if they use it forcibly, they can eject the former management and take over the company. After all, dismissing management and nominating new management are powers held by the general body of all shareholders. That power is determined by the majority decisions of the stockholders, and people who hold more stock get to cast more votes. In other words, if some person or group holds a majority of the stock, they can freely chase out the old management and make the president anyone they'd like. If they want, it's also possible to make themselves president. Most companies take various defensive measures to stop malicious people from buying up their stock and threatening their position, like ensuring that lots of stock is bought by those close to them, such as company employees. However, Hideyoshi's company had only recently become stock listed, and he hadn't had the time to strengthen those defensive measures. Or maybe Hideyoshi was so engrossed in the management of his company that he couldn't properly understand the dangers of being stock listed. It's hard to say whether he should be viewed as a kind-hearted manager immersed in the work of management, or a foolish manager who had his feet swept out from under him. In other words, there existed some people who wouldn't let him get away with that naivete unscathed. They began repeatedly buying up stock in Hideyoshi's company, rapidly gaining such strength that they couldn't be ignored. They then sent anonymous documents to the shareholders in an attempt to gain control of a majority. The documents read, "The current management continues to make pointless investments and is ignoring the needs of the stockholders. Let us force the current management to retire, cut the current wasted investments, and let this company be born again as one that gives more back to its stockholders." If there's anything I can say is truly ruining the world, it's stockholders. And billionaires, you know. The concept that everything has to be done for the shareholders at the expense of quite literally anything else is messed up. Very messed up. It's very difficult to make the actual state of a company's management known. The fruits of Hideyoshi's sleepless nights and constant concern for his company were cruelly distorted, and he lost the trust of his stockholders. Because if they're not making money for them, what are you even doing? You're supposed to be making them money. Not a good product, not, do anything for the public or the world at large. Stockholders. Thanks to these efforts, this group had almost collected a majority of the company's stock. At that point, even Hideyoshi noticed and started to buy back the stock, but the stockholders realized that the company was undergoing an acquisition maneuver, and each demanded a ridiculous price for the shares that Hideyoshi was trying to buy back. They continuously tortured Hideyoshi, who had no leeway in the negotiations of the price. One of the certainties of capitalism is that the price will rise when two parties vie for the same thing. And one of the certainties of democracy is that the majority controls everything. So in the end, whoever manages to buy up the most stock wins. Put another way, whoever has the most money wins. Yeah. That's what I can say more than anything. Shareholders, billionaires, whoever has the most money wins. That's the state of the world. Down to a T. Just, yep. Unless Hideyoshi could obtain a large sum of money at this crucial time, he could easily lose all he had built so far. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. He couldn't wait for the division of Kinzo's inheritance, since no one knew when he would die. And you, Rudolph, have been in quite a lot of trouble lately too, haven't you? You always hear people say it's terrifying overseas, but it seems it really is true. American trials are settled quite emotionally. They never hand down generous judgments to foreigners. Weren't you advised by your lawyer that making a settlement with the other party would be more economical in the long run? What's this all about? Just some trouble from work. No big deal. Nothing you can't settle with money. Kyrie immediately guessed the meaning behind the subtle expression of Rudolph's face. Her husband had gotten wrapped up in some kind of trouble without her knowledge and had been worrying over it alone. That's right. In this world, anything can be settled with money. After all, it can even buy back the broken bonds between siblings. America is very fussy about the violation of rights. But with money, anything can be settled. Long live capitalism. Though rumor has it that the settlement money could be as high as several $1 million. Rudolph had been building a large amount of wealth with a certain type of niche industry. However, a niche is a niche. Definitely wasn't a business exposed to the light of day. An American corporation giant was trying to accuse Rudolph's company of violating their rights. For various reasons, it was thought that the victory for Rudolph in this trial would be extremely unlikely, and he was being forced into an all-out surrender. But even so, there was a way for this to be resolved with money. If he could just pay that money, it might still be painful, but he'd be able to pick himself back up. But if he didn't pay, he'd lose everything. Therefore, more than anything else, he wanted a lot of money right now. Rosa, you're a good and noble little sister. You wouldn't get yourself involved in a dangerous money game. However, your soft-hearted nature has brought you trouble, hasn't it? In my opinion, becoming a co-signer for anything isn't something one should enter into lightly. That's none of your business, Kraus Nisa. Rosa uncharacteristically laid bare her emotions and yelled. After all, no one was supposed to know that. As Kraus watched, he let slip a muffled laugh. Without exception, every one of them, more than anything else, wanted a lot of money right now. In other words, the situation had been reversed. After all, the person the younger siblings were threatening was the only one who had no urgent need for a large sum of money. The other three, however, wanted a lot of money quickly, no matter the cost. In other words, the longer it took to establish this deal, the better position Kraus would be in. Kraus was extremely sly. He had known of their Achilles' heel from the beginning. Even so, he had not been certain. Therefore, he had hidden his knowledge until the very end, striking back only after analyzing their attitudes. If it were possible, I would like nothing more than to raise some money for my adorable siblings in their time of need. But unfortunately, I have nothing on hand. If you know of any sponsors that might be able to raise a whole $750 million, I suggest you try there first. Kraus's elated words were so obviously detached from what he actually felt. The other siblings could do nothing more than listen, grinding their teeth. If they could think of a sponsor that was convenient, they wouldn't have kept up this charade. They had entered this huge battle specifically because they had exhausted all other options. However, if you do insist on relying on your big brother, I wouldn't mind using my influence to help you find such a sponsor. Oh, wait, I do believe you said that I have no influence. Well, then I'm afraid I won't be much help to you. Kraus's low, gloating laugh began to fill the parlor. The younger siblings, who had been driving the oldest brother into a corner until a moment ago, could do nothing more than grimace and grind their teeth. Eva, don't make me laugh. As if I'd ever put myself in your debt. Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh. If we relied on you, how exactly would you help us? I wouldn't. I told you, didn't I? All I can do is find another sponsor for you. Of course, I will negotiate for the highest interest rate possible. Damn you. Taking advantage of us. I mean, y'all were about to take advantage of him too. You all just suck. Honey, please calm down. I am calm. I'm extremely cool. You bastard. Kyrie grabbed her husband's hand, but that action made him feel even more pitiful, so Rudolph shook it off. Kraus laughed as though watching something highly amusing. In times like these, it certainly would be nice to find Father's hidden gold. If you did, you could split it up into 2.5 billion yen portions right now. How sad, how sad, how very sad. How extremely, totally, truly, hopelessly sad. Tonight, let us all drink together, as we solve the riddle of Beatrice's epitaph and discover the location of Father's hidden gold. If we four friendly siblings work together, there's surely no puzzle we can't solve. They all suck. They all suck. Would this be a logical cutoff point? Like I don't want to cut the nights like super short. But it was a really long scene and a cutoff, not a glass breaking cutoff, but a cutoff. Regardless, I should save, not saved all night. Being too long. All right, still gonna save anyway. Forget that the glass breaks when we go out of that. Quite an entertaining scheme. Well then, what are the conditions they've attached? Well, whether or not Kraus-sama actually discovers the gold, he'll pay Eva-sama, Rudolph-sama, and Rosa-sama a total of 7.5 billion yen for their shares. However, 10% of that will be paid before March. Kraus, you dunce! To think he will have his feet swept out from under him by his younger siblings. How truly amusing. But it sounds as though they tripped when going in for the kill, yes? Yes. Kraus-sama exposed the fact that Eva-sama and the younger siblings all have an urgent need to get money.
その程
Is there
度の
even
こ
any
と
need to
はカンパ
expose
で
such
きるのか
obvious facts?
中途半端に無能な男め
You're irresolute, incompetent man.
今はどうして
What are they doing now?
話は一度
That
中断され
conversation
ま
has
した。
been put on hold for the time
今
being.
は
Now Beatrice
ベア
Sama's
トリーチェ
epitaph
さん
is being
自分の話を
discussed.
されている。
私の
So they're
黄
trying to solve the
金
riddle
は
and find out
ど
where
こ
my
に隠され
gold
て
is
いる
hidden.
のかその
Yes. Kinzo set down his spectacles and snorted.
奇跡の成
Will
就
the
が
miracle
先
be
か
fulfilled first,
愚か
or will those
者ども
fools
が
expose the
王
gold
実
first?
に見
What a show
物で
this will be.
愚か者
The
ど
very
も
moment
が
those fools
我
solve my
が謎
puzzle,
を
I will
解き
suffer
明かしたな
utter
ら
defeat.
我が
They can
屍
suck
を
my
骨の
corpse
一
down to the
かけら
last
まで
fragment
しゃ
of
ぶり
bone.
つく愚か
The
者
greed
ど
of
もの
fools
貪
can allow
欲さ
great
が
magic to bring
偉
forth a
大なる魔
miracle.
法に来たがも
And
し
yet,
奇跡の
if the
成
fulfillment
就
of
が
the miracle
先だ
comes
った
first,
なら先
if it
だっ
comes
たな
first,
らベアトリー
Beatrice
チェ
will
は
be
再び
resurrected
蘇る
again.
私
The
が
smile
半
I've been
生をか
chasing
けて
half
追
my
い
life
求
will
め
be
たあの
restored.
美酒おーベアトリーチェ
Soon will come the sacred night when we shall be bet upon a miracle, and the game of demons shall begin. I will surely prove triumphant and survive. I'll let you have the lives of all of those others. I don't need wealth or honor or assets or gold or anything. All I want is to see you smile one last time. What made the... No. Maybe that. I don't want the text insta appearing. We'll see if it works. I must have hit like up or down or something. There you go. See, Kinzo choked, apparently in great pain. Ganon got closer and tried to pat his master's back, but Kinzo motioned for him to stop. Do you know why I went to the trouble of exposing the hidden location of the gold in a place that everyone can see? No. It's because magical power is determined by risk. If the number of people who try to discover Beatrice's gold is great, and the danger of them succeeding is great as well, then the power of magic will bring about a grand miracle if we succeed despite the odds. In other words, magic is a game. It's not the case that the one who performs the best becomes the victor. The victor performs the best because he has been granted magic. Do you see? Is it similar to how the miracle of life can be granted only after winning against the divine odds of several hundred million to one? Apparently it's magic. Is this a little difficult for you? My apologies. It's fine. It all comes down to this. I'll give all that I have built up to the one who solves the mystery of Beatrice's epitaph. Wealth, honor, gold, and the inheritance of the Ushinomiya family, everything that I have established. My children certainly aren't the only ones with the right to attempt to solve this riddle. Anyone who solves the riddle will have the right to gain everything, even you. Yes. However, I couldn't possibly understand such a difficult riddle. Of course, I made it difficult, but you must try to solve it as well. That will form the seed that summons the miracle of my magic. If everyone attempts it and everyone fails, that will be that. However, if the miracles come together and give birth to magical power, it will happen. Magic from low odds. Beatrice will revive. That is why you must attempt it too. Everyone must attempt it. And in so doing, they will give strength to my magic. Do you understand? Yes. I'll try. For a long while, Kinzo repeatedly muttered to himself, agitated and clutching at his head. Ganon stayed where he was, alert and unmoving, until he was given the next order from his master. Kinzo eventually realized this. Very well, leave. There's a bag of sweets on the liquor cabinet. You can take some with you as a reward. I'm fine. After all, I'm furniture.
家具は
So
菓子
furniture
など
doesn't eat
食わぬ
sweets.
道理だ
Well, I
な。
suppose it stands to reason.
ならば
In
もう
that
下がり
case, leave me.
はい、
Yes.
失礼いたします。
Excuse me. Cannon bowed and left the study. As the door closed, a heavy locking noise sounded out. No furniture can't eat candy, obviously. But it was not the sound of Cannon locking the door. It was the door locking automatically. No one could enter without Kinzo's permission, and once they left, they could not enter again. It was a mechanism that Kinzo, unable to trust his blood relatives, had created to seal himself up in his own study and isolate himself from the outside world. Couch easy to everything. He was already unable to trust anyone accepting, not the children who shared in his blood, but those servants who called themselves furniture. I'm gonna call here. Like, this also could be a shorter one, but I don't know. Feels good enough. Means we save again. 2 saves right next to each other. Yeah, perfect. Still in episode 1. Not shocking, considering how long this game is. But, you know, making progress. Definitely saw more of the family's true colors shine tonight. Learned a bit about Beatrice. Learned a bit about risk and reward magic. Got some ooze. Always some ooze. But yeah, not shabby. Tomorrow we're going to do Stories 3. Tuesday I'm off because I'm in the city. Thursday will be Stories 3. Saturday will probably be Stories 3. Calico finished it today. I'm definitely a ways behind, but that's okay. And then Sunday we'll be back for this. Hold on, there is a date coming up that I will be off. Actually, oh, it's next Saturday. Next Saturday I'm probably going to be off. It's a karaoke thing.